Your square peg.
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Just went live. I'm gonna give people a couple of minutes to get in.
All right.
While we're waiting, Mr. King, did you create those graphics for your channel?
We actually just went live a second ago.
Oh, okay. So we live. All right.
Yeah, I did. I did create the graphics though.
All right.
Yes, sir. I'm just waiting on giving people a couple minutes to get in and waiting on another guy that's gonna join us too.
Okay.
Trying to figure out how to run this board the first time.
Yeah, I haven't done a hangout either. So
Yeah, me neither. Got no clue.
I'm just trying to figure out how I can see the chat room while we're talking. I'll figure it out. But anyway, this is Guy King, and I'm here today with Gakerde Jones and Square Peg. And we're possibly going to be joined by some others later on. We're going to be talking about a problem that's on the horizon. It's actually a problem that's been around for quite some time. The simps, the blue pill men, the enablers. And all of us, we tend to discuss women a lot. We talk about her evil nature. We talk about her privileges. We highlight their flaws. And all this is necessary, but the way I see it, women are secondary. She's not primary. She's never been primary. And not even when it comes to causing problems for us. So we got to discuss the primary issues, the root cause. And I'm convinced that it's coming from males, from simps, from beta males, whatever you call them. They're the issue. They're enabling her. Women only do what they're allowed to do. They have an upper hand in society because males made it this way. Men passed the gynocentric laws. Men enforce those laws. So we got to look at him. We got different types of simps. We got the hoteps calling the black women God. Then we got guys, they're sharp enough to realize that that's not true, that she's not God. But then a lot of those same guys end up worshiping non-black women. So then they're simps too. They think non-black women could do no wrong. I had a dude call me a simp recently in the comment section because I exposed the negative side of non-black women. So he says I'm simping for black women. You see?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how it's crazy.
yeah, simping is a dangerous thing. It can. What's really interesting is that you bring up kind of the hoteps and the pro-blacks. A lot of them have started trying to use, just like you mentioned, use the word simp to try to insinuate that since you're not defending black women, therefore you are a simp. So I'm starting to see that usage coming up more and more.
No, actually, they were calling me a simp because I was calling out non-black women. So they were saying I'm obviously simping for black women since I'm not focusing only on black women. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that women are women. I personally think, though, it's a question of degree. Some groups of women are more prone to acting crazy than others, but I mean, I'll just put it to you this way. Everyone knows that I'm married. If I hadn't found the woman that I found, I would not be married today, nor would I really recommend it. It's too dangerous, I feel like.
See, that's what I like to hear coming from somebody that's actually in it, still able to speak with a sane mind about it. You know.
Well, you know, I know you did a video. Trying to remember the title of it. 99.9999% of all women are like that, or something similar.
But not all.
But not all. Yeah. So you showed a picture of I think it was a rot with the muzzle around it, around its mouth, and I told you in the comments that actually speaks to something deeper. You know, when we talk about if you're going to engage with women, what must be done to avoid getting bit, if you can. I mean, there's no 100% guarantee in anything that you do, but
it's important to understand that they're all women.
Yeah,
but you got to look at it from like a blue pill mindset too, though. Like before you got red pilled, you know, you kind of had a different value for women in your life too, probably. And so these guys are coming at it from that kind of aspect where they think that they can't get along in life without women. So if you kind of just come at them and attack them, it's not going to be the same effect as somebody that's already been red pill kind of, or has had some type of bad experience with women and stuff like that.
I agree with you, but the only problem with that is that I run into so many guys, even in my own family, that have been crossed and screwed over by women, and they're still blue pill.
Yeah, because they want to think it's just one woman, like you're saying. Like they want to either shift it from, oh, it's black women or white women or Latino women, or it's if this type of woman, I met her at the club as opposed to at the laundromat, or I met her at the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like I've heard a lot of people say stuff like that. Well, you're just not meeting women in the right place. It's like, to me, it's just the laws are set up to where they could do whatever the fuck they want.
Agreed.
And yeah,
plus,
go on.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and it's like I think a lot of like the blue pill guys, they're kind of still in this like evolutionary mindset where the sexual market value of women is so high that they think that that's a good thing. They think that that's keeping men away from, like, unvaluable men away from the women. So they don't see it as like you're earning all this fucking money and she's just going to take you to the bank. They see it as like a plus, that it's harder to get women. It's more expensive to get women.
Well, you know, it's like to paraphrase a famous expression, coochie is a hell of a drug. And
Indeed it is.
What you said actually speaks to the heart of the matter. So if I can take us maybe back to a historical context.
Go ahead.
So if we go back to the 1800s, there was a lady by the name of Wollstonecraft, and she wrote a few tomes. Now, she would be considered first wave feminism. So she wasn't promoting the agenda of, say, the feminists from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but she was promoting feminism nonetheless. And she started way back in the 1800s. But the thing is, if you were to do a deep dive, which I'm, you know, unless people are really interested, I can go into more detail. But to make a long story short, she was mentored by some of the leading male figures of the day. In fact, even the feminists, like the third wave feminists, like Freudian and Greer and Shalom, whatever her name was. There's a bunch of them. But anyway, they all, you know, all those women look to Nietzsche as an inspiration. So they were basically taking these ideas from male thinkers and they were applying them to their own particular feminist struggle.
Now, see. Hold on just 1 second. Abuamerican, I see you in here.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man.
Good to have you
Just back in. I'm traveling, so you know, I was out and about trying to find some food, man.
Yeah, I hear you gotta eat. You in Germany still?
Yeah, still in Germany.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Jones. Continue if you.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's it. I mean, what we have is a situation, and I mean, to take it back even further, it's always been my point of view that feminism is actually just an outgrowth of communism and socialism. But if you really want to understand the roots, you have to go all the way back to Plato. Specifically, he wrote a book called The Republic, and there's a chapter in there, book 5, which deals with family. And basically, if you read that chapter, it lays out the modern day feminist agenda step by step. So you have elite groups of men who have utilized feminism as a tool, and who have trained these women to go out and to press that agenda. Basically, they don't really have much in the way of original thought. They're just kind of relying on the thoughts of men specifically.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of funding from like the bigger like think tanks and stuff like that. Like, I don't really want to get into Rockefellers and stuff like that, but I mean, you can even see how the CIA funded, you know, what's Gloria Steinem and like Ms. Magazine and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Where they were just like pushed there because they want to break down the family, which is obvious, but
right.
I think that most people just don't really see that aspect of it. It's like such a.
But see, that takes us right back to blaming men, which I think men are responsible for it.
Yeah, they definitely are, but you just got to see the aspect of why they don't care, you know, because they think it's kind of like when people are gay, it's like they're like, oh, well, that's less competition for us. So they see MGTOW and they just see that's less competition. These guys don't want to, you know, put out money for women, and we'll just have more women. That's what they don't really think of the larger social implications of like when their kids grow up and there's so much mass immigration into the country that they can't hold the fucking country together anymore. You know,
that's part
they're
of
just
the
thinking
entire
about, yeah.
mentality also. Enjoy the decline, you know?
Yeah.
You know, when you really look at it, you know, from like the red pill perspective, I mean, it's all reactionary. And I do agree that for the vast majority, or for the greater part, men are to blame. You know, men have failed to practice the deferral of gratification, and therefore, like, male thirst has been exploited by women in the powers that be. And so it's just caused, well, yeah, it's caused the female imperative to become the primary imperative. And what is the female imperative other than fickle? We just see this in their behaviors, from how they flake, from how they shop, to whatever else. And when we look at how society is going, it's that same mentality.
That's real.
No, it's true. I think, because I even think that men, if you look at it, men want to have kids more, you know, because a lot of MGTOW, they're mad because they can't have kids and stuff. And women, they just want to have the kids to get the resources. They don't really care about the kids as much as they say they do. Not saying all women, but a lot of women, they treat their kids like shit.
Yeah,
they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead, finish.
Oh, I was just about to say, it's like for a vast majority of women, especially in the 21st century, you know, a child is just a doorway to their base solipsistic nature. It's like you said, it's an access point to resources. That's why you find like the Instagram whores trying to score the sports players in order to get pregnant, in order to get the paycheck. Sort of like how Janet Jackson jammed up that Qatari guy, Al Manai. She made that contract for, what was it, 5 years for $500 million. She stayed 5 years and 4 months, took the kid, you know, so now she gets $500 million plus she gets a lifetime of child support. It's just, that's their nature in the 21st century. I don't know if this was the case in the past. Maybe it was, but we can't observe that. But yeah, kids nowadays have become a tool. Of course, like we say, we don't, you know, not all of them, like you said, but yeah, for a large number of them, children are a tool to resources nowadays.
Yeah, I found it interesting because just to speak to what happened in times past. For example, so for those who don't know, I actually study the shinobi arts or ninjutsu or whatever you want to call it. So in the old days, as it were, a child was expected to be fully trained by the age of 8. So this particular paradigm where we have, you have the kid, you raise a child till he or she is 18, you spend a bunch of money to send them to school. That really wasn't the case. And what was interesting is that really after a certain age, let's say maybe about a year or two after the child was weaned from its mother, then basically the father would take charge and, you know, educate the child, because there was no school really to send them to. So, I mean, you know, in our modern era, we have a lot of very different child raising expectations than past generations would have had. So I don't know if this makes women less interested in child rearing, but I think that might have a part to play.
Speaking of, oh, you about to say something, Square?
Go ahead.
Well, if you're gonna respond to him, go.
No, I was just gonna say how, yeah, it kind of looks like that because they've kind of externalized the jobs, because they're all in like healthcare, daycare, education of like young kids and stuff like that. So instead of being at home with their own kids, you know, they're out in the world teaching everybody else's kid. But it's still like the same job.
R/K selection theory.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, this is our selected mentality, really, when you think about it, because one of the best, you know, one of the attributes of K selection is high parental investment, and in R selection is low parental investment. And when we look at like the socialist nature of like how society is going, the welfare state, Section 8, all these different like social welfare programs, which are in place or put in place predominantly by who? The voting bloc of women. This is a very R-selected behavior. And R selection is something that women can afford to be R-selected. Men generally cannot be R-selected, or we shouldn't be. And this is why you find in the red pill manosphere, especially like when you look at pickup artists and whatnot, and even MGTOW, they say, you know, improve yourself, work out, learn a new trade, always better yourself. This is K-selected thinking. And child rearing is the same. High parental investment in fewer children. And so what we find is the R-selected nature of females have come out because it's been pushed. That's the imperative. The gynocentric feminine imperative is being pushed, and that's very R-selected. And this is what happens, again, when you give women a very, very high role of, what do you call it? Say in how society is dictated. I don't like the guy, but Black Pigeon Speaks talks about this. You know Black Pigeon?
Yep.
He made an entire, sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, Black Pigeon, one of his first videos was about that, how women destroy nations. And when you look at his information, it's rock solid. You know, it's
Yeah. I wanted to chime in on that too, because, you know, again, this is what I'm saying. I think every brother should read Plato, The Republic, Book 5. Because what you will get is you will get the game plan. All of this is a means to an end. So when the brother King is talking about we need to put the emphasis on men, see, like personally in my work, I don't subscribe to the concept of all powerful white supremacy. That's something I don't subscribe to, because what we have, in my view, we actually have a rule of the elite, and the elite men, and most of them are men, are doing it through institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, you know, the various central banks, the Bank of International Settlements. These are institutions that are controlling by proxy, you know, Trilateral Commission and things of that nature. That is the true ruling elite. And these ruling elites don't live like they tell everyone else to live. Like they tell everyone else that, okay, you have the choice to have children out of wedlock and not get educated, and you can live this way, shake your booty at the club, but you will never in a zillion years catch the elite families living like that.
Nope.
Not 100 million years.
Nope.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like what the alt-right says, where they're promoting degeneracy. I mean, I don't really subscribe to that, but it does have some truth to it, where they're saying, you know, they're trying to break down everybody else's way of life and then build up their own.
You know, how do I say this? I actually believe, I agree with the alt-right. There seems to be an exceptionally hard push for degeneracy, what we consider degeneracy in this day and age. When we look at the vast majority of human populations around the world, they are vastly conservative. But what's being pushed on the media is like just this gay, transgender, whatever else. And then when you really look, unless it's in major city populations, you don't really see this type of behavior, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's really being pushed by, like you said, these elite who run media. You know, they can put this stuff in magazines and on TV and, like, you know, on billboards. These are the people who have the power to do that. And one of the questions that comes up is, what's the end goal? You know, it's what bothers me. I can only think of depopulation, but I'm not really sure what else it would be. I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
probably more than one end goal. I think depopulation. I think financially taking everything from the men, just to keep,
too.
just to keep the economy rolling.
I think those are definitely two goals. I mean, ultimately, we can boil it down to one word, which is control. So, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but if you read Plato, basically they talk about the philosopher kings, right? So the philosopher kings make all the decisions in the society. They decide who works when, who works where, who has children, if they're authorized to have children. No one has a wife, so you're not allowed to have a wife. You basically share all the women in common, which is very similar to what we got going on now. Basically, you have this master class, these philosopher kings who basically dictate the control of everybody else. And for those who have unauthorized children or who are degenerate or whatever it is, they disappear, quote unquote, never to be heard from again. So the game plan is spelled out. And I think what the alt-right gets wrong, though, is they seem to be very focused on blaming a certain group of people. I think they miss the point that you have tyranny by the elite, and it's done through institutions, not necessarily specific ethnic groups of people. I think that's what they're missing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys, what do you think what's up with the rise of the alpha male simp? Like the physical alpha who you would think would not need the simp, but they'll be some of the biggest simps.
Because the authority's gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can look as tough as they want, but it's like, at the end of the day, if you piss off a woman, the cops are coming up to your house and you ain't beating up the whole police squad.
Pretty much that. Yeah. I mean, and I can't, sometimes I listen to some of these. We know there's some pretty prominent alpha male simps here on YouTube. I won't name names, but I think they're doing it to get paid. Because in their personal lives, I bet good money that they're not really acting this way. I think they're saying one thing and they're living a different way. I seriously doubt that they're going to be pandering to females when they're off camera. That's just my sense. I could be wrong.
I agree. Pandering to women pays. When we look at guys like Steve Harvey and all these other, speakers who speak on behalf of women and whatnot, there's a lot of them. It pays. You will have the largest online following as a man pandering to women. And it's the same thing, like it falls into the same category of spending. Women make up something like some 80+% of domestic spending, despite not making like 60% of like all, domestic income. So it's the same thing. You market to the biggest buyers of whatever you're pushing. And again, I bring up the word again. We all know it, gynocentric. If you push the gynocentric feminine imperative, you're gonna do well. If I change my entire channel to just trashing dudes and bigging up women, I would freaking make a killing. I'd have so many subscribers, but
I agree with what y'all say, but what I'm telling you is further than YouTube, not just online. I see this in everyday life, even relatives of mine, like physical alphas that are pandering to women. Like, I don't get it.
It's just a mindset, though. You know what I mean?
It's a reproductive strategy. Like I said, it's pandering to them is a type of reproductive strategy. Oh, look at me. I'm the big tough guy, but I'm on your side because I'm special, because I'm in touch with my feelings, but I'm that muscular. They're trying to look like the guy on the cover of the romance novels, with the wavy hair. He's got that, real, I don't know what to call it, the muscular bitch look. I don't know.
Yeah.
What else do you call it?
No,
what they're saying that women like, and it's not true.
You know, I'll add to that too. So we were talking about a little bit. I was talking about the feminists from the 50s, 60s, and 70s and whatnot. And there's a book called Manliness by Harvey Mansfield, which is a must read. It's a classic work. He talks about the fact that Simone, whatever, one of the feminists, she basically called it. She said that basically that feminism will win because men won't put up a fight. And what I gather from that is that basically, you know, it really, it's tough to keep a woman in line. And I'll just say this, I've been married for 12 years. It's not been easy. I'll put it to you that way. I mean, I have to be assertive. I have to dominate sometimes in ways that the typical guy is not really going to be wanting to do. You know, it's not comfortable. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's not pleasant.
It's not safe
So
with the law.
that's true. True that. You're taking legal risk. So it's easier just to go along and get along. It's easier just to say, hey, baby, please, give me some booty, you know, and keep it moving.
Well, this goes back to the male thirst thing. You know, I was reading somewhere, I can't remember who it was. It was some online author, and he was saying it's like when we look at women today, they have access to more men than her mother or grandmother had. You know, she's like, she has more access to more men in a month than her mother or her grandmother did in their lifetimes combined, just because of the sake of the internet, you know? So if she has Instagram or Facebook, whatever, she's getting bombarded in her inbox by like hundreds of dudes, if not thousands, if she's a half decent looking woman putting her pictures online. This makes it difficult to maintain a relationship because if you listen to Turd Flinging Monkey, he talks about, you know, male scarcity. And that's really the only way to like return like some sort of similitude of balance. But what does that mean? That means that entails like war, which means a lot of men dying off. And it's, you know, so how do you maintain a stable relationship when, you know, you ever, you know, what's his name? Chris Rock, the comedian. And he was like, you know, every offer that a man makes to a woman is like, you want some D? You want some D? And it's like she's getting this all day, every day. And so she has the luxury of looking at you and be like, oh, I wonder if I can do better, you know? Yeah, I saw a meme. It was hilarious, you know, and you got Wonder Woman lying in bed next to Superman, and she's sitting there thinking, can I do better? And this is a part of the problem, male thirst. There's an entire sector, I'm Muslim, but it's come to light that there's an entire sector of Muslim men who do nothing but pursue married Muslim women. This is a huge no-no in Islam. You can, if you live in a Muslim country, they'll kill you for this. But there's an entire sector of dudes that just specialize in this.
That's surprising.
Right?
Wow.
They're trying to cash in on female discontent with their partner.
Wow.
So you got to imagine you're competing against that also. Male thirst. It's the enemy to men. It's, you know, the deferral of gratification is something that men need to learn.
You know, I noticed in all my travels, everywhere I've been on this planet, men only get jealous when it comes to women. Like I can have jewelry on, I can have a nice vehicle, nice clothes, I could be in the hood in some third world country. Nobody has any jealousy until they see me with one of their women.
Yeah.
Then it's a problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that,
these are the stories of the Dick Patrol.
Yes, sir.
It's just threatening the whole image of the alpha male, though, because it's like if they're trying to be an alpha and then you come in and, you know, take their women or whatever, it's kind of knocking them down a peg or whatever. And it's just like that's the only reason why people really interact in society is just because of that whole male female dynamic. Otherwise, men would have already gone their own way like thousands of years ago.
Reg the bag up.
Yeah, what's up? I was late, man. I saw it come. I was at the gym. What I miss? You hear me?
All right. Yeah, I was just typing something. I'm gonna turn up my mic, so let me know if there's any feedback. I'll put on my headphones, guys. I'm gonna turn up my speakers here so I can hear you better.
But yeah, getting back to the whole social media thing too, what Abu was talking about before, it's like I think that's part of the problem why we can't get MGTOW as far as we like to in social media, because it's like women dominate social media pretty much. I think it's like at least like over 75% of people that are on social media are women, because it's like they're at home, they're working easier jobs where they can get on social media and stuff like that. So trying to get the word out just through social media is definitely going to be difficult.
And the men on
Especially
social
when it's-
media act like women, think like women.
Yeah.
Processing. I know Abuamerican did a video about, what were you talking about? The way females argue or something like that.
Yeah.
And when I was listening to it, it sounded like he was talking about dudes.
Unfortunately, this day and age.
You know?
And this is assuming, of course, that your channel doesn't get taken down because people don't like what you're saying. This is why I have Kitty Gakade Jones 2, because they took out my original channel during the purge back in March, I think it was.
Wow.
So there's that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to watch out for your content, brothers. You might have to word stuff differently. But you still say the same thing. You know, you can't stop saying, you know, the truth. You know, we wouldn't want to shut down, basically. They want it back the way it was. You know, one side opinion, and that's it.
That's some good advice. If you want to keep a channel up.
Well, I mean, now that we're on the topic of language, this is also an issue. I mean, I'm a real fan of Illimitable Man, and he said something that's very true. He's like, women are more concerned with how words make them feel as opposed to the content of the words. They're not concerned with the truth. They're concerned with how those words make them feel. How do you debate with, how do you get across a point or educate a person who's more worried about how the words make them feel as opposed to the truth? You know,
You got to use emotional arguments. You got to kind of appeal to emotion. I know it's not a real debate technique, but it's like in a battle like this, you got to use whatever you can.
I think you don't talk to them. I think you deal with the men.
I mean, but the men are the same way. You gotta, like, those type of dudes, it's like you gotta appeal to, it's like you gotta think, like, most people, like, evolved people here, they sound very well educated, well spoken. It's like the majority of people are dumb. The majority of people are on fucking watching PewDiePie and shit like that. So it's like
Yeah.
you gotta kind of get at them at that level where it's like very, I mean, look at the meme war or whatever. It's like it's very basic, simple bullshit that gets people laughing. Just like the anti-feminist videos, it's not really deep, but it's like it makes a point on an emotional level. Like, you would look stupid if you were like this guy, or you would feel sad if you look like this guy, instead of trying to debate with people and, you know, go over logic and statistics. It doesn't work on everybody.
Oh, God.
And I know.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I know it's like a low tactic to use when you're trying to debate with people, but it's like that seems to be the only effective thing to the masses.
I use stuff like that to trigger people where I understand that you're not going to get far with them, you know, and then you can just cause a meltdown. But otherwise, yeah, it's a bit lowbrow, maybe is the word.
Well, this is my thing. At the end of the day, I think if we don't figure out what we're going to do about the simp problem, it's only going to get worse for us. So what are we going to do? I don't have the answer.
I don't think anybody does, but I think definitely what you're saying about the alpha simps is definitely something that we got to look at, because the beta simps are going to go wherever the women go, and the women are going to go wherever the alphas go. So it's mostly about convincing the alphas that it's in their favor.
I'm thinking maybe this is a lost generation and it's just focusing on the next generation. I'm really big on my kids. I actually have 5 sons. And, you know, I make them watch Maury, You Are Not the Father, because they need to understand that, you know, one of the biggest misconceptions, and I know it's sort of jumping off track, but like one of the biggest misconceptions is beauty automatically equates to virtue. And, you know, this is part of the whole alpha simp mentality. Oh, it's a woman. How dare you besmirch her honor, you bastard, you know, and then they want to fight you and super simp kill you, you know, but it's like, did you ever stop to think that maybe she was lying? Look how many false rape claims are coming out nowadays and people are getting killed over it. You know, I just read a case today about it. So these I think this current generation, unless the person's already showing attributes and signs of like having gone through like relationship turmoil to where he starts to question the the status quo of like, wait a minute, I did everything right and it still went wrong. Until you get a man who comes to that point through a breakdown of a relationship, you're not going to reach any of these men. And some of those men won't even come to that point despite like, repetitive problems that they've had. So
Yeah, like
I think
5 divorces.
I personally think that we as content creators and kind of thought leaders on these subjects, sometimes I feel like we take on too much responsibility, because the fact of the matter is not everybody can be saved, and we have to be okay with that. So me personally, I will produce content. I have books that I'm in the process of writing, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, my whole thing is I'm going to try to counter some of these simp arguments the best that I can, but really it's going to be up to each individual to either accept it or reject it. And if they reject it, then it is what it is. We tried our best. I'm gonna keep moving. So
Yeah, but then we end up being stuck with the bill. Like the responsible men, the real alphas of the world, we end up having to clean up after all that mess.
well, if you choose to, I mean, on a certain level, it's not something that can be easily avoided. That's true. But I mean, I don't, and this is the other thing too, I don't really think that we have that moral responsibility. I mean, we're trying to say, hey, this is the right way to go about doing things. If they don't listen, then they have to suffer the consequences, aka Section 8 or food stamp cuts or whatever is coming down the pipe. It sounds cold, but at the end of the day, we can't save the world.
You probably can't save
That's
the
true.
world, but I just think that you might have to take a stand because this sin problem is really out of control, the way I see it. And either you gonna have to take a stand or you just have to just probably go somewhere off on an island somewhere and live by yourself or something. I don't know. I mean, because the way things are going, man, it's only gonna get worse. Um,
Let me know when
some
you find that
brothers,
island, man.
Well,
I know,
unfortunately,
I know.
the simps would wash up on shore one day, walking around. All of a sudden, the simp washes up. Oh, it starts all over again.
At that point, we shoot at them.
But this goes into like R/K selection theory, because if you look at R selection and K selection, K selected people, they believe in communities, very close, tight knit communities. Let's say an island here, community, consider it to be a type of island where people have altruistic reciprocity amongst one another. And those who go outside the bounds of those rules and regulations that they consider to be like acceptable for the tribe, for a lack of a better term, they are ostracized and kicked out of the community. So in that sense, you can create an island if you have like-minded people who live in a community together. The problem is, it's like, who was it? I can't remember. I think it was Square you were saying, or King, I can't remember who, that this would be a community of alphas where the women are going to follow, and then who's going to follow them? The simps. So you're always going to have this cycle of like, alphas running the show, women showing up, simps showing up, and then what happens? Then how women argue and how women take in power. They start requesting and demanding power. Men, of course, even alphas want to give deference to their women. They give them power. Women create a consensus among other women, and simps, they take over. Gynocentrism starts again. This is the egalitarian cycle that Turd-Flinging Monkey talks about, and it's very accurate if you look at it historically. So even if you escape, you're just going to recreate the same cycle. I don't think we can escape it, to be honest.
You hurt my feelings.
So what is the solution then? What is the solution? At least some solution that we can live with.
It's creating communities, and just, you're really going to have to run it like a dictatorship. It's not pretty. If you think about any solution, it requires what? It requires a restriction of freedom, not like absolute freedoms. Because when you start giving too many freedoms, what happens? People start taking advantage of stuff. You're going to have to start like I said, ostracizing people or whatnot, because there's certain behaviors that you can't accept if you want your society to follow a particular set of rules. Anybody who breaks those rules has to leave. And that's really reducing freedom, not giving it. And that's how are you going to implement that today?
It sounds to me like we're not going to. Oh, go ahead, Rich.
Oh, well, there's another problem too, is that a lot of these women are getting used to being around simps. So now how can you solve that problem?
I was going to say that you got fathers raising simps. You got fathers raising daughters to expect men to be simps. Like a lot of people like to, chalk the simp thing up to single mothers. And I don't think it's true. I know a lot of simps that come from 2-parent households.
That's true.
Yeah,
bro,
and I think that's because to offer that correction, to say to your daughter, because I have a daughter, and it's not easy to say, hey, this is not what you're supposed to do. It's tough to say to your son, hey, you know what? Not everything that glitters is gold. You need to do you and put that woman, on the back burner, whatever it is, when you get old enough, of course. That's hard to do. It's just easier to, again, go along, get along. Oh, it's okay. The black woman is God, or put Becky on a pedestal. I mean, it's much easier to say those things, because my whole contention is that patriarchy is not the nature of man. My whole thing is that liberty is the nature of man. So if you're presented with patriarchy or freedom, you're going to choose freedom. I mean, it takes resolution to be a patriarch, and not everybody is cut out to be that.
Not many are cut out to be it. Seems like.
But then let me ask you a question. I'm trying to stay on the topic here, because now when we look at, like, historically, every society was based off of a patriarchy. So when we look at, like, modern day societies, from Europe to wherever else, if we look across Asia, Southeast and Far East Asia, they're all patriarchal societies. When we look, historically, which has led up to what their success is right now. We don't have another model. So how do we work off of that if we're going to make liberty, the new model? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think these things kind of come in cycles. So if we take Rome, for example, I think that's a often studied, case study. So basically you got to the point in Rome where the men simply did not want to be the traditional patriarchal Roman male. So you had emperors that were instituting laws forcing men to get married, or taxing, the bachelor tax, all that stuff. Yeah. Now, I don't disagree. I personally feel that patriarchy is the most successful and the most ideal structure. That's my personal preference. Mm-hmm. But if you're presented a choice between being a patriarch for no benefits versus being free and getting a lot of benefits, then you're gonna go MGTOW every time. Or the average guy is.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of misunderstood there then. Okay, fine. Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely.
Shout out to Diamond Life in the chat room. He said he missed Japan, can't go back because of the Fukushima radiation. Yeah, I never got to go. I guess I can't go now.
And it's like ground zero warning thing. I mean, if you think about it, MGTOW started in Japan with what is it called, herbivore men? I mean, that's
social kodanshi.
They were before the MGTOW here?
I believe so. I believe like the herbivore men started out before like MGTOW.
Yeah.
Well, I would slightly disagree with that. So the social kodanshi, the grass eating men, they're doing their thing, but for different reasons. So the men that we would consider the herbivore men or the social kodanshi, they grew up with their fathers working on average 6 days a week, about 10 to 12 hours a day. Yeah. And they would see their father come home on Sunday and be exhausted. And, they would see how the parents really didn't spend time with them. and they would see that, you know, their fathers were sacrificing their lives for the company's sake. And marriage adds another component, because the typical Japanese woman is, at least nowadays, on average, she's going to want about $40,000 a year in salary from you before she'll even consider marrying you. That's part of their issue.
But isn't that worldwide? It's definitely here in the States.
Well, see, the herbivore men though are a uniquely Japanese phenomenon, because they're basically saying, I don't want to be part of the Sarariman system. MGTOW is slightly different in that MGTOW is a result of bad family law, basically. I mean, the typical American person can go to work about 8 hours a day. You know, he might have weekends off or whatever it is. It's a slightly different dynamic that I just wanted to throw out there. It's not exactly the same. And the other part of that is, and I'll wrap this up here, but Japanese men have a certain standard of behavior that they expect from their women. And this is what they call basic. It's not negotiable for them. However, Japanese women, having watched a lot of American TV and movies or whatever it is, expect Japanese men to do X, Y, and Z and earn on average $40,000 a year. So the Japanese men are basically saying, I'm not interested in that, I'm out. Whereas American men start off gynocentric, and they have to work their way to a level where they are now saying, okay, now this behavior is basic, this behavior is basic, this behavior is basic, and I'm not going to compromise. They don't start out that way like the Japanese guys do on average.
So is it a misconception then that Asian women should be the most desirable?
Depends on what country. It depends on what country you're looking at. So this is speaking for me personally. I've never really got along with Chinese women or Taiwanese women. Korean women are more manageable, and I really like Korean women. I like the way they look. You know, they got a lot more curve to them than your typical stereotypical Asian female. I like Japanese women because their personalities mesh. But it really depends on the person. Apparently, a lot of alt writers really like Chinese girls. I'm not sure why, but
and I bet that's gonna change soon too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think
it's spreading.
Yeah, I think it's really if you're gonna find a woman to be with on a permanent basis, you're gonna have to dig really hard to find her.
I've come to find that just like, and it's not going to be popular for me, but because I got people who watch my channel. But I come to find that, like, in terms of Asians, the most amicable I've come across are Malaysians and Indonesians. They tend to be like quite amicable females. They tend to have like very strong mentality of, you know, traditional gender roles, you know, and this type of stuff. So and this is just my experience. I don't think I've ever met anybody Japanese. I've met Chinese. But you know, I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with them.
Yeah, I hear good things about, but Southeast Asia is kind of a different vibe. So I've never actually been there. I've never met anybody from there, but I have some partners that swear by Indonesian girls specifically. So
I'm gonna step off for 2 minutes. Y'all carry on though.
Yeah. Hey, brother, I'm learning something here because I have no experience with Asian women.
Yeah, I mean,
keep on talking, tell me.
I mean, my whole thing is, so I like to think of them as it's like iron wrapped in cotton. So you look at them, right? You see them on the street. You know, typically they can be very feminine looking, right? They enjoy being women. They have a womanly air about them. They don't want to be men, most of them. But don't be fooled. You know, when they're at home, they want to run the show. They can be very dominant. And Chinese women and Taiwanese women can be very dominant from the get-go. I mean, they're not as, you know, submissive, if you want to use that word, as women from, say, Korea or Japan. Chinese women are notorious for being very domineering.
Okay. I apologize, guys. Excuse me. Quick question. Are we live on air right now?
Yes.
Yeah. in the group chat, can you post a link? Because I'll get some viewers in here from a group I run on Facebook. Someone could drop the YouTube link.
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Thanks.
Hey, going back to the simp situation.
Yeah, indeed.
It seems like we're not going to be able to get past it in capitalism, because in capitalism, the females have to be given privileges for it to work, right? For spending, consumerism, and all that.
Well, that's a good question. I'll reserve my comments so everybody else goes first.
I'll wait. That's a tough one. I have to actually go over that one. I've never thought about it.
Yeah, if I may. So, like I talked about the rule by the elites, right? So the elite men who run things through institutions. So what we have, so the problem that we have is we don't actually live under a capitalist system, and we really haven't lived under one since at least the early 1900s. What we live under is a mixed economy, or socialism light, basically. If you recall the Federal Reserve, which was brought into creation back in the early 1900s. So you have the problem with the Federal Reserve is that it tinkers with interest rates, and interest rates are the cost of money. And every financial decision, be it how many employees you're going to hire, how much of X you're going to produce, I'm going to buy X amount of this. All of this is determined by interest rates because it's the cost of money. So what you have is you have manipulation of interest rates. So the market, in other words, 300 million Americans, just using America by itself, are not setting the price of money through their buying or their spending or their saving. What you have is you have a situation where you have inflation, you have deflation, you have quantitative easing. So women, so to tie it to women, in our system, we have what's called debt-based currency. So when the government decides to build a highway, right, and they don't have the money, and they're not going to get it from tax dollars, so they're going to go to the Fed and they're going to say, Fed, I want $1 billion. And so what the Fed is going to do is they're going to buy U.S. Treasury bonds. So these are obligations of the U.S. government that the government has to pay interest on. So they're going to get the cash and they're going to sell the bond. But what they're saying is, to get this money, I have to pay you, Federal Reserve, 3% a year, whatever it is. But to service that debt, just like your credit card, you have to have income. The problem is that the income, when you have a male-only workforce, was tapped out back in the 60s or 70s. This is why you also had, this is one of the reasons why you had integration, is that it? When instead of having your own segregated Negro, Black, African-American, whatever you want to call it, community, because you notice, most of you who study your history, segregated Black America was infinitely richer than we are today.
For sure.
But you had to bring Black America in. So that's when integration, among other reasons, there are foreign policy reasons too, but whatever. But you bring them in, right? So now you have more consumers for your ethnic European or your white-owned conglomerates. But even with that, they were still facing a situation where debt service, right? Debt service is increasing higher than the rate of growth. In our particular system, you have to have growth. This is why when you turn on CNBC or whatever it is, this is why they're always talking about growth. You know, Johnson & Johnson had 10% growth in earnings this quarter. This is why if the company doesn't produce the growth, you see the stock price fall, right? So women had to work because the male-only integrated workforce basically tapped out. They were not producing and spending enough to service the amounts of debt which the country was accumulating. So then you have to, and this is the Rockefeller piece, the Rockefellers and others. So you send women to work, they're going to do what? They're going to spend, and they are not going to save. So this is the basis. It's a question of economics.
And that's why the child support laws are how they are, and the custody laws.
And, you know, on top of that, interestingly, the states receive, so for every dollar in child support the state collects, they get reimbursed. So the government will pay them $1 for every dollar they collect. So the states have a definite financial incentive to basically collect as much child support as possible. This is why you have situations where brothers are being put on child support, even when the woman says, I don't want to do this. The state has a financial interest in doing so.
Yeah, I get it. So, in other words, we're not going to be able to get past it then. Not in capitalism.
Well,
no, I mean, it's playing off of like basic human nature, because it's like men are always going to compete to be on that dominance hierarchy. And like you're saying, you know, the interest rates and stuff of females kind of goes up. It's like the more money men produce, the more money they have to spend on a marriage or whatever. And the females don't actually change in value, because there's always going to be like half the population's female. So it becomes more of a like a scarce resource.
yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, we really don't know what a true free market system is. So long as we have this situation where the government produces money at interest, so long as we have a debt-based economy, then no, there's no fixing it. Because if you do the math, interest accrues at a much higher rate than growth. So there's no changing it. Now, if it were up to me, I would make some changes that would maybe fix the situation. But under the present system that we have right now, no, it's not changing.
So am I reaching to say that capitalism is gynocentric then?
It can be, but we really don't have capitalism.
I mean, the gynocentrism is just an aspect of controlling the men, because the men produce everything. I mean, if there was another way to control men, they would use that.
Exactly.
It just happens to be the best way.
Exactly. Under the system we live under. So economists will tell you that we actually have what's called a mixed economy, which is basically, it's got some capitalistic components, but it's also like, it's like half capitalism, half socialism.
Yeah, it's capitalism for men and socialism for women.
Exactly. That's what it
Yep.
is. That's exactly right.
That's socialism, though. Golly. Don't get me started on that topic.
Somebody else mentioned that it was a socialist society. I think it was 411, one of my subscribers. He mentioned that.
And I wanted to point out again that, you know, the root of communism, or socialism in this case, because they're two separate systems, is Platonism. It's a Platonic system. So, you know, this is basically the plan according to the Gospel of Plato. So if you really want to understand what the end game looks like, you have to read him.
I see. Y'all not giving me no hope today.
There's hope. It's just, I mean, you know, my whole thing is, because I'm a financial person by profession, so I always go to the economic part first. This is why, for example, like Brother Abu was saying, he probably knows what happened to Gaddafi, right? When he tried to create the gold dinar, and you saw what happened to him. That's why, because Africa was in a position to bankrupt completely the Western powers. Because again, it's a choice. You can either trade us in gold dinars, which you know what the value is. That dinar would have been asset-backed money or asset-based money versus debt-based money. You're going to go for the gold every time. Africa would have been super rich, and the debts that were denominated in the debt currency would have been impossible to repay. So guess what has to happen?
I was in Uganda when that happened, and you wouldn't believe the Ugandans were actually taking the side of the U.S.
Wow.
Wouldn't believe it.
That's
well, yeah. But I mean, these things that we're talking about here, I would probably safe to say that most people probably never heard of debt-based versus asset-based money and how that all interacts. You know, you can't blame sometimes people just don't know, right? Because they teach this in school, but they don't widely disseminate it in public. But that is indeed, I think, the root cause. It's an economic issue, because economics is nothing more than the study of human cooperation to produce or to consume. So
we've learned today that we can't beat simpism.
it can be defeated, but it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's not
easy.
overnight.
Yeah.
Well, the men have the power, man. You know, the men have the power to change. The women, we know that the women is not going to be able to change. You know, they on a different level. We're just not going to be able to do it. You know, give them something, make them feel comfortable, and that's it. It's almost like being in a burning house. You know, house won't burn down before they start to react. You know, so
Good analogy.
Yeah, I think that we have the power to do it, but like the man said, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be, at this point, it's gonna be real hard, because I think that we let it stuff slide because maybe we didn't know what was going on at the time. So
I would like to, if I can. Oh,
okay, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say, before you go, Mr. Jones, let me just say we're outnumbered. Yes. We're so vastly outnumbered, and the numbers are growing. So I don't know what to do.
Just keep doing what you do. Keep producing that fire content. I was going to say, I do want to offer some hope, because I might have made that sound very doom and gloomy. I mean, here's the thing. I'm actually pretty optimistic, because I think that we need to go back, though, to bond markets for a moment, if you'll bear with me. So we talked about Gaddafi, right? I mean, you have different countries that are trying to put together alternative economic systems. This is, like the Russia, Iran, China axis, things of that nature.
Yeah, so even Bitcoin too.
Bitcoin, exactly. But so we have to think about, so feminism is public policy. So public policy means it is it's the courts, it's the legislatures, it's executive orders. All of these things support feminist public policy. But to fund it, you can only do that in a few different ways. You could raise taxes, but no one will pay taxes to fund feminism. You can borrow money, or you can print money via your friendly central bank. So what we've been doing as a country, we've been borrowing money and we've been printing money to pay for feminist public policy, to fund it. Now, there's these things called bond markets, and bond markets, at some point, there's going to be a question of, can you pay back the money that we've lent you? We all know that the family is the basic unit of society. It's also the fundamental economic unit. And you see what the children of simps and single mothers or married simps or whatever, you see what they're doing, right? Are they producing mountains of wealth to pay back these loans? No. So what we have is a massive bond bubble, which will pop. So this is why you see the moves by DJ Trump to cut Section 8, cut food stamps, cut spending. If Trump doesn't do it now, then bond markets are going to force the issue later. It will come to an end, basically, is what I'm saying. And there are many ways it could come to an end, such as war and other things. But I think that the first thing that will happen is creditors will simply say, okay, we're cutting off your credit line. It's over. And who are they going to throw under the bus? Are they going to sacrifice the military, or are they going to sacrifice feminism? I think feminism becomes a very tasty scapegoat if we're in that kind of situation. So, I mean, I could see a scenario where, and it won't be too long, I give it 5 to 10 years.
I'm more doomist. I mean, when we look at like historical societies, and I come back to Turf-Flinging Monkey and his egalitarian cycle, and I just swear by it. When we look at like the Byzantians, the Greek, the Romans, the Turks, with the Ottomans, when we look at any great society in the past, they've all followed the cycle that we're on right now. And we are at the peak, we're at the apex, and we're actually on the decline that those societies were, which is they start off with strong patriarchies, which create stable countries, which go gynocentric, which turns feminist, which leads to a collapse again. And so basically, my doom and gloom, we need to have a complete collapse before we can rebuild again. And it always rebuilds, but it always rebuilds better, because what happens now, this goes into a different topic. You bring it from the economic stance. I bring it from the R/K selection stance. What happens is R selected men, they start to die, which creates male scarcity. So R selected men, these are the types where we say those who can't compete complain. But complaining doesn't help in a survival environment. You can't complain to the deer that I can't catch you because I suck at tactics of either physicality or outsmarting a deer and catching it. I'm just giving a very, very clear example. I'm not saying we're going to go back to like spears or whatnot, but I'm just saying in an absolute survival environment where it's rough and tough, you can't complain your way into survival. So until we come back to a cycle that causes K-selected men, those true alphas who are intelligent and have the physicality to go with it in order to survive, we won't advance past this point. Let's look at the Renaissance, right? The Renaissance came right at the end of what? The Black Plague. The Black Plague wiped out those people who were not intelligent to just lock themselves in the house, use sanitary, conditions or whatnot, or had the physicality to survive the disease-ridden times. At the end of the Renaissance, Europe had been devastated, but we have never seen a time in European history where architecture and art was so high level. Not even now, we don't produce art to the degree that those guys did, because that created an environment of super K individuals, both male and female. And they were at the apex of humanity. When we look at the end of slavery, we had the same thing with Black America, where we had Black Wall Street, where we had the Tuskegee Airmen. These were super K Black males and Black families. We had faced such devastation that only the toughest of the tough had survived. And they were more advanced. Where do we see this nowadays? Where we had entire communities that had stores, investments, banks. We were creating pilots, the best pilots of the Second World War. I mean, so we need an environment, unfortunately, I believe, where these R-selected men, they're always going to exist amongst us, get wiped out. There's a super K environment. They bring the next advancement stage in humanity. Then we fall through that cycle again. And yeah.
Let's see,
So
let's see, Mr. Jones say he needs to get on out of here. So thank you for coming on, brother, and look to have you on again. Take it easy.
No, but I mean, I can see kind of the cycle coming, because with all the automation and stuff like that, like you're saying, the R-selected people, they're not going to be able to survive as much. When you look at McDonald's is replacing all the waiters with the touch screens or whatever, and now Amazon bought Whole Foods, so they're probably going to make it automated, and it's going to be hard for people that can't actually create something or invent something or code computers. They're not going to be able to survive as well.
While all that is true, even in the midst of that, I still feel like they're gonna do something to make things easy for the women. The gynocentrism is not going anywhere. So it goes back to what I was saying, how we're gonna end up having to clean up.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna go more towards harem style stuff, where it's guys are gonna be getting married to 5 or 6 chicks.
But it's already like that now, isn't it? I mean, the 80-20 rule has never ended.
Yeah, exactly.
Never.
It's always there, Yeah,
it was just because of Christianity and religion that it became monogamous for a while. But in reality, it's the women are definitely after only a small group of guys. But
can that change in a dire situation, in what you're talking about, or in some type of post-apocalyptic thing?
No, that's just gonna get worse, because it's gonna be the guys that just kill everybody are gonna get all the women and all the resources, and everybody else is just gonna die off.
Yeah.
At least those men will be out men want to kill all these other men or whatever.
Yeah, but they're gonna be white knight alphas, because they're just killing everybody for the women.
Yeah. See? So,
White knight alpha. That's the problem right now.
mhm.
Go ahead, Rich.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I said it earlier. The white knight alpha, the physical alpha, the leader, the guy who has all the leadership capabilities, but he's still simping. I can't get it. I don't get it.
I think that's part of human nature. And this is why I don't think we'll get rid of it. This is why I think it's going to be cyclic. This is just my humble opinion. When we look, even in hardcore patriarchal societies, there's, and this is something that women always talk about. Oh, where's all the chivalry? But women fail to understand that chivalry goes hand in hand with patriarchy, because patriarchies are exceptionally rough and hard. And so men show deference to women by way of chivalry in a patriarchy. You take away patriarchy, you take away chivalry. So it's in our nature as men, even in a rough and tumble environment, where it's like, kill or be killed, men are always going to show deference to women. I think it's just a nature thing. I don't think you can really get away from it. I don't know.
No, I don't think you can, because it's like if you look at all the fairy tales and just different things from history, it's the same thing. It's like the female has always been kind of like the prize to the warrior or the successful man.
He has to show some physical feat, go out and slay the dragon. She's been kidnapped and kept in a tower by an orc who you have to defeat. Yes, it's always, you have to perform some feat of amazing feat to go get the girl.
Yeah, but that's part of nature anyway. That's part of the cycle of nature anyway. Man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I think androcentrism is built into the biology. I don't know. It's a realm I'm not, well versed in. I read about, but I just gave you.
No, I did a video about it. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I would agree. It's got to be nature, but this is the question: is it a point in time when we have to get past our nature for a better future?
Well, now
evolution.
Now you're talking about actually becoming more spiritual. Raising up to a different level. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Because right now we at the basic levels, and that's part of our problem right now. We resonating on these basic levels, this root chakra, what I call it.
I would agree.
So if we can rise up, then I think things would be better. But the problem is that a lot of people don't realize they're so used to being at this low level that it's just like when you start talking about stuff like this, higher level, higher mind, they just think you crazy.
Yeah.
True indeed.
Well, when we talk about transcending levels, there's some questions here over in the live chat. Maybe we should address also. But when we talk about transcending levels, I do agree. But now we come into, like you said, topics that people don't want to hear about nowadays. For me, in this particular regard, it's Islam. There are rules and regulations in Islam, some that support human nature and others that oppose it. Those things like, unlimited and unrestricted polygamy for men, just going around banging women, I guess, from the PUA's type of, mentality. But at the same time, it's supported through polygamy, but not unrestricted. You know what I mean? There's restriction in terms of you have to be an alpha, you have to be case selected, and that you have to take care of those women. You can't just have them on the side and she's paying her own bills. In Islam, you have to take care of her entirely, which fits the female imperative. But at the same time, it makes the man highly case selected because he has to be an exceptional man in order to afford for women or be able to take care of them in a very tough environment. Let's just go back to a very basic, example we can give. You're in an environment where it's just you and your wood huts. It's one thing to go out and catch a deer and feed your family for a month or whatever, or off the, salted body of a deer, or, 4 families off of the salted body of one deer. You have to be an exceptionally resourceful individual, an alpha male, in order to meet those demands. So I think it's there. But
let me say this. Go finish. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, I kind of caught my thoughts trying to process it all. I think it's there in terms of the spirituality and whatnot, but this goes back to what I was saying about altruism, reciprocity, communities, like-minded individuals. It all has to tie together. It has to be, you know, anyway, I'm kind of now lost it. Sorry, guys.
About what you said about taking care of the other women.
Yeah.
I like that, but
Yo, you muted.
I'm sorry. In Western society, your other women that you be taking care of, they don't know how to play the role of being that woman. And the laws aren't in place for her to play the role either.
Yeah. But isn't that part of like socialism? I mean, it's allowed them that luxury to where they know that if they cut off their man, daddy state's going to take care of them. But if you're in an environment where it's like, if I leave my man, I'm out in the wild on my own. It doesn't have to be the wild in a literal sense. It's just, I need to go out, I need to work, I need to take care of myself. And if I don't, I'm going to starve. That environment will make women give thought and pause to decisions they make in regards to their man, be it selection and leaving him.
Okay, so won't the woman revert back to trying to seek for the alpha male instead of the simp man or this beta simp?
Well, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a good thing then.
But yeah, that's why they got the no-fault divorce, so women don't really have to make a solid decision up front. They can be like, oh, well, I can just try this out for a couple of years, and if it doesn't work out, I get half his shit, and I get to move on.
Exactly.
Whereas like you're saying, like in the Muslim religion, there's more of a balance where, you know, the woman can't really get divorced unless she has a good reason.
I think no-fault divorce ended society, man.
She can ask for a divorce, but she gets nothing. She leaves with what she came. She literally leaves with what she came with. There is no, what is it called? Alimony, you know? And the alimony is for 3 months in the house. So she's not even outside of the house. She's not supposed to leave the house while she receives this, you know? It's a time frame called her iddah, 90 days. She goes through 3 menstrual cycles. She doesn't get these huge payouts. You don't get that in Islam. It opposes her hypergamic nature, Islam. You know, it's like, you don't get that cash payout. It doesn't pay to divorce your man. It doesn't pay off for you to leave him. Western society has done the opposite.
Okay, so what about
for capitalism, right?
Oh, excuse me. What about the situation with Janet Jackson? I'm sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm. What about it?
What about the situation with Janet Jackson? You know, she married this guy.
Janet Jackson, yeah, she cut a deal though. She made like some sort of prenuptial deal with that guy. I mean, really, when you look at it, he's the type of simp we're talking about. You know, okay. Yeah. He made a deal that he didn't have to. It's like, why would you agree to something like that? $500 million if you stay 5 years. What did he think was going to happen?
Yeah, he's insane.
That's simping.
Can't imagine being married with that kind of money.
Yeah.
He has access to any woman on this planet.
Younger than her, you know?
Yeah.
He's ultra rich. Why Janet Jackson?
Unless he had some kind of other angle that we don't know about and he failed.
But
he was transparent.
Isn't he?
What'd you say?
He's like actually going against his religion, isn't he?
Well, I think if he's a prince, he actually has to be married in order to have an heir, like the royalty. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just knock some chick up if you're like a king or a prince. You actually have to be married to them. Because like a lot of kings and stuff like that back in the day, they had kids with other women, like the concubines and stuff, but they weren't considered the heir to the throne because they weren't married to him.
I want to look at this question. Oh, I'm sorry.
For the royal fame, from the royal fortune he might get one day.
Well, as for this guy in specific, I lived in Qatar for 7 years, or 6.5 years, almost 7 years. He's from the family that's called Al-Manai. Now, Al-Manai is a very, very rich family. It's one of the top 10 richest families in the country, but it's not part of the royal family. But those people are exceptionally tribalistic people. So for him to actually marry someone from outside the tribe, because they marry like direct cousins, they'll marry first cousins just to keep wealth within the family. So he definitely had to go through a lot of trouble to marry her. And I'm sure he's going through a lot more trouble with his family now that he's paid her $500 million of family money.
I want to look at this question in the chat room. Go ahead, Reg. Finish what you're saying.
You guys know you should get that money yet? Because she went to court on it.
I don't know.
I mean, in London, I guess. Whatever.
In this world, he's gonna get it. I mean, she's gonna get the money. It's gonna happen, even if she gotta wait on it.
Have be probably almost close to second, not the second, but what? Maybe fourth richest black woman in America. That happened.
Yeah. Unfortunately. I was gonna say, let's look at this question I got from Diamond Life in the chat room. He says, do you think men should adopt a middle ground between chivalry and alpha maleism? Anybody want to take that? Is there?
Can I jump on that?
Sure, go ahead.
I think it's natural. I think it's the natural disposition for men to want to show deference to the women. But there came a point with gynocentrism and feminism that made it a negative point against you as opposed to a positive one. This whole expose your feelings, tell me what's going on, and this, that, the other. Women like that, but they only like it from a position of strength. So when you're an alpha male in a position where you're in an environment that what do you say? That supports you. I don't know what the proper word I'm looking for. That like accentuates your power. I don't know. Excuse me. I'm at a lost words here. When you're in that environment where you're at the top of your game and you expose some sort of emotional weakness or whatnot, or some sort of like softness towards her, then it benefits you. But nowadays in the society we're in, being an alpha and then showing like chivalrous behavior, it's a fool's errand. And this is why the bad boys and the jerks get the women, because they don't show any of that, because this is what society does to women. Societies in the entire Western world shows women deference. They don't need any more deference. You're just doing the status quo now. So this is why bad boys and jerks who are criminals and whatnot, especially we see this in the African-American community, unfortunately, the worst of the worst get some of the baddest women. In this society, showing that softness, that chivalry, it doesn't benefit you. And I pretty much, I sound like a misogynist jerk on my channel, but women love me. You'd be surprised at how much messages I get from women. The softer you are, the more they despise you.
Yeah, they like
so in the environment, no, it doesn't benefit you.
I have to agree, it doesn't benefit you. You have to be an alpha male. I've been there, done that. You try to be soft, man, you just going to get run into the ground. You're not gonna get nowhere. But the day you tell that woman to shut the hell up, get out of my face, I don't think y'all that, and guess what?
She'll never leave you.
That's right. You got her attention forever. You can say one thing that's crazy to a woman, and she will remember that over everything else.
No, that's true.
So
that is.
You gotta be alpha male, man. You got to have some balls.
So there's no middle ground then. In other words, to answer his question.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, no, there's no middle ground. I know that's hard. I know that's hard to come by, but that's the way it is. I tried both sides. I know. And I tried the middle ground. It just don't work.
Yeah, I failed at it too.
Yeah, Blind Assassin makes a good point here. He says, why do women like thugs? Easy, they're insecure. That is correct.
Yes, it is.
They've confused this modern day dysfunctionality with confidence, strength, alphaness.
Well, have you guys heard about like hybristophilia, where it's like women are attracted?
I just put it in there. I said, look up hybristophilia. Yeah. I just put it on the main window in the live chat.
I mean, it definitely affects the African-American community more.
Tell me about that. I never heard of it.
Well, it's basically like how women are attracted to like killers and violent guys and stuff like that. Like, how like Ted Bundy, he had like a bunch of like fans or whatever when he was on trial and stuff like that. And it seems to be like a smaller, it could be manifest smaller just like in communities. And it's like, especially like in the African-American community, since it's like, you know, so much crime and stuff, women are just going to be more naturally attracted to guys that aren't afraid to hurt other people.
I see.
Because it's a survival mechanism.
But then they want him to simp too.
Well, that's what it is. It's like they want like a double-edged man, a man who's super competitive against other men, but then like worships pussy.
Exactly.
You want me to read it out here? Hybristophilia is a paraphilia in which sexual arousal, facilitation, and attainment of orgasms are responsive to and contingent upon being with a partner known to have committed an outrage, cheating, lying, known infidelities, or crimes such as rape, murder, and armed robbery. This is why women, like he said, you know, these mass murderers have women come and visit him for conjugal visits in jail. You know.
Yep. Now, what about this one? Blue the Scholar in the chat room, he says there has to be a reward system for chivalry, or a man won't save women when he's rejected by them. Right now, there's not really. Do y'all think there's a reward system? I think that there's not.
Man, I mean, I know guys that have gotten married and like, you know, they saved the woman from all of her debt, and then she ended up running up their credit cards and then left. Like, or have them raise the kids for the second. It's like you can't save these hoes anymore.
Yep, I know them too.
Well, this kind of ties in what we were just talking about. The only real reward is to be the scoundrel. Then you are rewarded with vast amounts of you become the 20 and you have the 80 pursuing you. But then this goes back into PUA and enjoying the decline. Now you aid and abet in the decline if you come into an actual criminal type behavior, you know. It's a vicious circle. I mean, think about it. How else is there? Your reward would only to be, or would to be to attain large amounts of women. This is the only real reward you would have, and that won't come through chivalry. That's going to come through hybristophilia and these type of like behaviors, being a misogynist jerk.
We'll be back
becoming
in 60
PUA.
seconds, guys. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Take your time, bro. So all you're doing is riding off the back of the decline to your benefit. How does that help the situation? It doesn't. It's just enjoying the ride. You need literally. This is why I say I'm a doomsday type of guy. Unless there's a collapse, there's going to be no benefit to that.
Yeah, it's true. Because it's like,
I mean, that's my opinion.
I just think that the society's kind of come to like an apex a little bit, where it's like we can't really advance to the next stage because people are so busy cutting each other down instead of trying to build each other up. And it's like when they look at competition, instead of looking at it as if, well, I'm just going to do better than this guy, they're like, I'm going to try to fuck this guy's day up and make myself look better in front of everybody.
I did a video about this, and you know, I blame feminism because here's the thing. Amongst men, we had to compete with one another in order to stand out, in order to gain access to women, the high quality women, you know, because that's what she was looking for. She wanted the best particular man, you know, earner, physicality, whatever else. So we were in a constant battle of, you know, outdoing each other or attrition with one another as men. Feminism came in and said, oh, look at all you men over there. You're doing this and we're down here and we're like just cooking and cleaning, whatever else, barefoot in the kitchen, pregnant, whatever they made up for themselves, you know, these bad ideas that they had. And they said, we want to be on par with you. So they, by default, were just thrown right into the mix of our entire battle of competition amongst each other. They didn't earn their position like men did. Men had to battle to their position. Women were just given the position. And so now the competition field expanded. So now it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now, not only I have to shine higher than her because of hypergamy, because she's not going to look at a guy who's lower than her. You know, it's just not the nature of women to try and like marry and like, you know, create relationships with guys who are lower than them, unless it's for their dualistic, you know, alpha fucks, beta bucks reproductive strategy. She'll screw the bad boy, but she's not going to build a relationship with the bad boy. You know, she's going to go get her beta bucks guy for that. So Fields up there, the beta bucks type of guy. So what does he do? He competes harder, which is type of alpha if you think about it. But really, if you think about it, all men have to have a degree of alpha within them. It's just which is higher, which is stronger, his alpha or his beta. But anyway, so now the battle of attrition is three-way against women, you know? And so I kind of blame feminism for this, because the battle would only be men against men, always against each other. But every time men up the game because another man ups the game, and then feminism's like, well, that's not fair. Men are up there. And then they just get put up there. Men have to strive even harder and higher. And I think this also has an epigenetic effect that makes, I'm going to say it, it's not going to be popular, but that makes men better than women in general, because we have to be. You can't tell me that doesn't have an epigenetic effect on, like, you know, reproduction and, like, you know, the offspring.
Men are better
because we're expected to compete and become better, and the other is just given everything just because of a demand.
Men are worth more. That's what hypergamy is all about.
I did an entire write-up on this on Facebook. What did I say? Men are better than women, but women are more valuable than men. This is what I hold. Men are intrinsically better than women because we have to be. We have to outshine. We have to outcompete, out physicality, whatever else, mentally, money earning. But women are more valuable because of their basic reproduction. And I built off that idea from Turd Flinging Monkey. Sorry to go on so long here, but let me just throw this little bit out. And Turd Flinging Monkey gave this speech about two tribes. And the two tribes were broken up, 50 men, 50 women. So the 50 men go out and they go to war. Most of the men are killed. There's only 10 men left. The 10 men come back. The tribe can still reproduce with those 10 men at the rate of 50 children every 9 months. Now the opposite happens. 50 men go out, and while those 50 men are out, the tribe gets hit and there's only 10 women left. Those 50 men come back. The tribe has taken a catastrophic hit, because now the tribe can only reproduce at the rate of 10 children every 9 months. And to top it off, the tribe will probably take a greater hit as those 50 men fight and kill one another for access to those 10 women. So women are intrinsically more valuable, but men are intrinsically better.
I don't disagree with you, but
really,
from a different point of view, the man is more valuable because it only takes one of him. There could be one man and 200 women. He can impregnate all of them, and now the tribe continues. So if there's only one of him needed, he's more precious, right?
I think the man has what you call it, the soulophatic energy inside of him. So he's the one that starts everything off. He's the initiator. The woman is just the vessel, the one that nurture everything. So I think that the man is actually the one who starts and build and destroy at the same time.
I think so too. But I understand what Abuamerican was saying. I get his point totally. I know what he's talking about. But I just think we got it twisted nowadays. I think the government has it twisted. I think it's men who have set everything in motion to have things the way they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, men produce the value and women receive value. If you look at it from like a market standpoint, it's like, who's more valuable, the customer or the company that's making a product? Because it's like, you can make a computer, but if there's nobody to buy it, then it doesn't have any value in the market if nobody needs computers. And it's like, it's the same thing where they say, like, eggs are expensive and sperm is cheap, but it's like, tell that to a guy that's been paying child support for 18 years. Well, the women's doing nothing.
Yep. And once again,
makes a point.
Men pass those laws. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just reading from the comments here. Who's the caller said, I disagree because women are not more valuable in reality because populations are not low anymore like in primitive times. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. But then with beta males, simps running the society, setting everything in place, owning everything, passing all the laws and enforcing the laws, then women are more valuable inside the matrix.
I mean, look at Bill Gates. I mean, he's one of the richest men in the world, and who do you marry? Like some chick that he had a crush on in high school. It's like, what has she done for the world?
Oh, that's
Like,
a
where's her
good point
value?
right there.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking if I was in Bill Gates' position, I might have done the same thing. Maybe. Maybe because you're thinking, maybe she knew you before you blew up, so maybe she's real. She's not the gold digger. Because
No, I'm,
with
I'm
that
not
kind of
saying
money,
no, I'm not saying that on like a relationship level. I'm just saying like, what's her value compared to his value?
okay, I see what you're saying. The overall picture, I get it.
Has anybody read Esther Villar's book, The Manipulated Man?
No,
I've read pieces of it,
people
but
tell me to
I
read
do
that.
not believe a female wrote that book. I don't believe it, man.
It really doesn't seem like it. But she's a real woman. If she wrote it or not is another thing. But she covers this topic a lot. That it's only a woman who automatically gains her husband's status and value through marriage. You know.
Yep. What do they say? What is it? I don't know if I'm saying it right. Is it a king can bring a queen up, but a queen can't make a king or something like that?
And Patrice O'Neill talked about that a lot.
Yeah, something like that.
Patrice O'Neill said that. He says the queen is the king's bitch. Those were his words exactly.
Yep.
And he was like, and he's like, but the queen, if she marries a commoner, he doesn't become the king. He doesn't even become a prince. He's just her husband. So yeah, the common woman becomes the queen, and she gains status through marriage. The man doesn't.
Is that natural, or is this a decision that beta males decided? The people who control this world.
No, I mean, I think it's natural because I mean, even if you look at like tribes, like you're saying, it's like if a few group of men control that area, whatever women are in that area get the resources and get whatever protection that those men provide. And if it's a successful tribe, whatever, then the women are technically successful.
True indeed.
I think that the beta males, this beta male syndrome, is created by, you could say, the 1% or those few men who's in power to control society. They want this society to go a certain way, or go to a certain level, whatever they want. They don't need alpha males in society, or a lot of them, to say, because they know that those alpha males will overthrow society. Will say, "Hey man, something's wrong here. The balance is off. We need to get this balance back on key again." They don't want that. They want it the way it is because they're making money off of this.
Yeah, the small group of betas at the top don't want balance. Balance would remove them from existence.
That's right. Exactly.
They wouldn't exist anymore. That's what. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. No, so we actually fight against them. We think we fight against these women, but they empower women.
And that's the point of this live stream. That right there.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Really look, any single and every law that disadvantages men in modern society, it was put in place and enforced by men pandering to women against other men that those men can't compete with.
Exactly.
Complain, or they create rules and systems that disadvantage those competitive men. And this is why it's very important, I think, for everyone to read r/k selection theory, because basically K-selected individuals, he goes with the premise that humans are a mixture of pair bonding and tournament species in terms of animals. So we don't mind competition amongst one another, but R-selected, they don't like competition. And the only time they will enter in a competition or enjoy competition is when there are rules in place that advantage them over those who are superior to them. And this is what we see society is. We see a bunch of dudes who are lames creating laws and systems that advantage them over others. Why are there monogamy laws? For what?
Yeah, that's what racism is all about, in my opinion. Like, racism is a bunch of beta male simps who felt like they were not going to be able to have a monopoly on procreating with their women. They're afraid the better men, the alphas, so to speak, of the world were going to take their women and then they wouldn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what racism is
Yeah.
all about.
I mean, I'm just thinking just in general. I mean, monogamy is generally, I'm just, and I'm not really pushing the agenda, but I'm just saying monogamy advantages who? It's not even really women if you think about it, because that's been part of human nature and way of life for since recorded history. But it advantages those men out there who had a difficult time standing out above the rest of other men in order to attract women. So what does he do? He creates an artificial scarcity. He puts a system in place that creates a type of artificial scarcity. And he panders to women also, because of course in the nature of women is that they're jealous, you know, and you know, they understand. It doesn't take a, you know, a super genius or a philosopher to understand that women are jealous, you know, it's from their nature. One panders to the other to his own benefit. They are the enemy. You know, instead of stepping up his game, what does he do? He wants to drag yours down.
But
That doesn't benefit society.
exactly. But while that's true, who's enforcing that? It's the guys
Well,
who are not, yeah, the other men who aren't even in his circle.
yeah.
Those men who are not in his circle, who are enforcing his laws, are the enemy to me.
This goes back, and this is why I say reading r/k selection is a very important factor for all men, I think, because what happens is our selected men or our selection, what they do is they're also good at taking advantage of the altruistic nature of K-selected people. So what they do is this. They now turn Ks against other Ks. Generally, K-selected people are people who serve in the military and law enforcement. So the R-selected uses the K-selected to oppress other K-selected individuals. You see? But they say, oh, it's right, it's fair, it's this. And then, of course, the K-selected person's like, yeah, well, I guess it's fair, it's right, it's just. Or he just feels he has a dedication to society as a whole, or his people, or his tribe. And what does he do? He just enforces laws on the land. Because this is just from their nature to have that whole, and I know it's going a bit off topic, but this is the whole, if you don't support the troops, you know, type mentality. That's a K-selected ideology. It's just a stupid blind following of the K-selected rule. You know, there's no context to it.
I think it has to do with hope. I think the guys who are not in that circle of rulers, I think they have hope that if they do right, if they do this good, they do that, they play by the rules, then they can become one of those guys. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's what motivates them to be the simp that they are and to follow the orders and keep everything rolling, even though it doesn't benefit them. That is my take on it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's true. Because I mean, even going back to what you're saying about racism, it really is just like an extension of tribalism. Because I mean, even if you're talking about any culture or group of people, before they were fighting against the other races, they were fighting against each other in tribes. And then as society expanded, and like just to like touch on it, was like, because it's like obviously like in America it's like white dominated or whatever, and so they saw their rulers as an extension of them, not realizing that the elite, they don't give a fuck about anybody. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these motherfuckers is like fucking pedophiles and Satan worshipers and all types of other weird shit that the average everyday working guy just isn't involved in. And it's like they thought that they were looking out for them. And I mean, you can see it now with like the heroin epidemic. When that shit was happening in the hood and the crack epidemic, nobody cared. But now all of a sudden, the rest of America is getting hit with like the same type of stuff that was going off in the hood earlier. And now everybody's super concerned about it. And so it's like they just pit one group against another group, and then they make that group break down. And now you got white people calling other white people a fucking white male. I mean, it's ridiculous that they've figured out how to break people down into such small groups like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's very hard to like combat something like that.
Totally agreed.
You know,
what is it all coming to though? Oh, go ahead. Finish. Go
just building off what he's saying. This is what do you call it? This is like a multifaceted part of the entire problem that he just spoke about. Now it's actually very well articulated. Multiculturalism is destined to fail. I mean, I know we're going a little bit off topic here. It's against the human nature in general. We are tribalistic people. You know, I became Muslim in 1998. Who do I usually hang out with? I usually hang out with other Black Muslims, be they Somali, Ghanaians, Nigerians, whatever else. It's natural for people to congregate to their owns that look like themselves, you know? Now, of course, I've been married to different women of different types or whatever, not, you know, different races, whatnot, but that's just regular men, just like women. But generally, when it comes to building a unit or a tribe, it's usually people who are based upon one particular ethnicity. Now, if this is correct or incorrect, hey, okay, fine, fair enough. That's another debate. But this is being played off of, and this is one reason why. And we were talking about America and white racism. I dare say that the entire Western world is a white patriarchy, but some some white patriarchies are better than others. I would say the UK is a better white patriarchy than the United States, because the United States was based off of racism through slavery. The United Kingdom had kings and queens and whatnot, so their entire system is socialist. You know, it's classist. Excuse me, not socialist, classist. So it doesn't matter what race you are in the UK. You can be white, Black, Asian, whatever else. You're under the bus because of your class, you know. But in America, you're under the bus because of your race.
True,
you know. So in the UK, you find there's a better balance between the races in terms of lack of racism, because people understand that you're not one of those people up there.
That's why I don't get with the Black economics crowd that think we can save ourselves by being rich in America. I just don't see it. You're still Black.
But I think the same thing will happen like everywhere else. Just like when they infected, you know, Tuskegee with what was it? Syphilis, I think it was. They burned down Greenville, Black Wall Street. You're going to rebuild it and they're going to destroy it.
There you go. People don't understand this.
Yeah, but Guy King, I did a video about that money and stuff, but I think that it's not going to erase the racism, because the racism has to do with something systemic and has to do with more of the mind than anything. But if you have money, it will help. You can bypass it. You can't erase it, but you can actually bypass it, go around it.
Well, this is what I say, Reg. Not to totally disagree with you, but I think bypassing it means leaving the states. Like, if you're still in the states, you're not going to bypass it here, man.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm thinking about bypassing it so you won't have to deal with it no more. And if you got money, you can get out, go to other countries, maybe get a dual citizenship somewhere else or something like that. But then at least then you don't have to deal with it.
Well, but then what's the guy? What was he? Henry Louis Gates. Remember his story? Wealthy, well-to-do brother got arrested breaking into his own house in a white neighborhood.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Look at O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Look at O.J. Look at. I mean, it's
guys stayed in America. If they just left somewhere else, it probably would have been better.
That's it. That's the only option to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a cultural shit, though. Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, historical stuff, and I think that Black people could be more accepted in the society, but with like all the stuff we're talking about in between like welfare and all the other stuff that's really fucked up the Black community, people just go off a stereotype, and that's like you said, that's just never going to change unless we can fix the that ain't gonna.
It'll change when Black men get control of the media portrayal of Black people.
Is that gonna happen?
And I don't think that'll happen.
Nah.
Well, I mean, if they start their own media system, I mean, it just be real grassroots.
Yeah, I mean, but look,
like Bollywood and all
what's
that.
What's that guy's name?
Then I think that they can portray Black people in different image.
Maybe.
We have a few Black media moguls, but what do they do with it? What's that one guy? He's always dressing up as a woman. What's that guy's name?
Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
But this is what happens. Under the system, man. He's still under the system. They're not going to help. They're still under the system. They got to get out.
And then those who try to make moves, look what happened to Bill Cosby.
Yeah, exactly.
He's trying to buy within the system again.
Yep.
So trying to buy what? NBC in the system. That's not going to do nothing no good for Black people.
Nope.
But yeah, this goes back to what I was saying about Greenville and whatnot. If you don't think they'll tear it down again if you rebuild it, they're tearing down individuals now. They don't have to do communities.
Okay,
well said.
Yeah. Okay.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they're trying to get everybody down, really. It's just, the black community is like a smaller community. It's only 10% of America, so it's much easier for them to target. And like I said, like the rest of the population doesn't really care because of tribalism. So they see it like, oh, well, that's those people over there. And now that it's happening to them, that it's like they can't really say anything.
Yeah, in the black economics crowd, they would call us cowards for talking like this, but I'm just being real. I'm looking at history.
Mhm.
You know,
No, you know what I said? I talked about this. There was I can't remember where it was. Some lady was like saying, telling black people in America, she was saying, "Come home, come home." It's a video on my YouTube channel. I can't remember um, where she was from, but I was saying, go back to Africa. I know it sounds like a goofy tropism, but you know, if you go and build something, go create jobs. There's a lot of money to be made in Africa. I've been to Kenya and a few other places, and the money is there. You just have to have the resources and mentality to capitalize on it. And what you find is what's happening is who's doing it? The Chinese and white people. They're the only ones capitalizing on Africa right now. And why don't we do it as African Americans? You're not going to do it out here in the West. It's not going to happen. The bigger you get, the more you're going to be on someone's radar. And the reality is, the higher you get up economically, the higher you get into the K-selected individual zone of functioning. And the K-selected believe in competition. And competition, I'm going to take you out.
and
It's not just take out your competition.
Yeah, not enough blacks are gonna stand by your side. That's the problem. If we
We're
could count on
adversarial to one another. Why?
exactly, if we could count on more of us standing by each other's side, then we could have a discussion about it then. But that's
Yeah.
naive to believe in. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a video on R/K selection in the black community, and the difference between the type of competitions that we display and the competition. I showed Team Alpha Male. Team Alpha Male is a UFC MMA fight group run by Uriah Faber, and those guys will pound each other to pulps, and then at the end they're like slapping hands, giving hugs and whatever, because to them competition amongst one another makes the tribe as a whole stronger. But the competition that we display as African Americans tends to be, I'm going to go out in the street and kill somebody. And that doesn't make the tribe stronger.
As long as it's your own people.
Yes.
That's the only people they're killing.
Well, it's just not cooperative competition. Because it's like, even if you look at Europe, that's how they advance their warfare strategy so much, is because they had specific like rules of engagement and all this other stuff that they didn't employ in other regions. Where it's like when the French were fighting against the English, they had to like come up with drums and announce it but when they went to like Africa, they just shot people. They weren't like playing by the same set of rules. And so like the cooperative building, it's like people just see it like I said before, people would rather just cut you down than actually make something better and just actually outcompete you.
Yeah. This goes into like what our very topic is. Who's the enemy? Those are selected beta type individual simps. They don't want to compete. They'll kill you. He's going to use a gun, whatever else. He's going to cheat the system in order to have higher access to more women. You are his competition as be it, and if we're not talking about I don't think there's an absolute alpha, but maybe there's an intellectual one who is very strong and powerful and stands out and he makes a lot of money. One who stands out through his athleticism or whatnot, or just through his personality and the way that he can like function. Don't like that. They can't compete. And so what do? They try and tear you down also, but they don't do it from a competition standpoint. Like you said, from cooperative competition, these guys are the enemy. They mess up the balance.
Yep, they are the enemy. Let's look at this. What Blue is the Collar says in the chat room. He says alpha males know that money might attract women, but it doesn't arouse them like game. And I don't agree with it.
I agree with him.
Tell
me why.
I believe that men are chosen, pre-selected. And it's not so much about the game. I did a video about it. A lot of guys think they have game, but he was already chosen before he even spoke to her. You just didn't know it. You didn't know it yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, women are sexual gatekeepers, unless it's rape. She decides who has sexual access to her or not. And men are basically marriage and commitment gatekeepers. We decide who's worth us spending our resources on over a long period of time. So one is usually given in exchange for the other, which is, his security and resources in exchange for female deference, which is physical affection and sex. This is my humble opinion. So I think he's right to a degree, because this comes back to the alpha fucks beta bucks part of the whole game. Why is the rich lady banging the pool boy? She's got a rich husband, but the pool boy comes along, she's banging him. It doesn't make sense. So it's not always money.
But I don't think it's game. I think it was his looks, his what you might call swag, whatever else. It wasn't
But
game.
rich guys they look good, Some of these guys, they got the look, they've got the physicality, and they got the money. Like we were talking about the alpha simps. Those guys have the physicality of an alpha, but his mentality is a simp.
Yeah, those guys, they don't. Those guys don't have to do it. That's what bothers me about those guys. They do it because they think they have to. They simp.
But at the end of the day, the result is the same, I think.
Yeah.
Because I have to admit, like up to about maybe like 5 to 6 years ago, I had like a simp mentality, but I was boxing, doing jujitsu, doing MMA. I mean, I was at the top of my game, and I was usually at the top of my circles. But when it came to women, I had like a simp mentality. And what happened? My girl, she cheated on me. But I was the top of like the circle where I was at. And she cheated on me with a guy who I'm like, this dude, really? But what did he have? He had nothing but, I was running my own business, my own MMA school and everything. And that brought me to Red Pill, and that brought me to the stance I'm at right now, But to me back then, I did everything right. I made the money. I was the workout guy. I could whip everybody's butt. You know what I mean? I'm like,
I think she would have cheated even if you weren't a simp. I think she would have cheated anyway.
It could be the case, but I don't know.
I think women now. I think there's almost nothing we can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a split. Go on, Reg.
Oh, okay. I have to agree with God King that it has to do with game. Maybe back in the 70s when I was growing up, you can run the game on girls, but way the women thinking of way the mentality they have a mindset of a man now. So the game is not going to work on them no more. I did a couple of videos about this. It's just not going to work. But like I said before, in some other videos I did, you can the woman choose the man. It's always been like that.
And the man just doesn't know.
Yeah, you could have all the money in the world, and some other guy come around, don't have nothing, probably a bum, got bad shoes on, and bad breath problems, and you choose him. It's the way, it's her mentality. You don't know what she's thinking. You have to get into the mind of a woman to find out what she's thinking. Some of us, we just don't do that because we men. If you're real alpha men, you don't do that.
I've been the recipient. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you're a beta male, you could probably have a better chance of probably figuring out what she's thinking, but then become a beta male, you become more like a woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been the recipient of women who had a better guy than me. There was no reason she should have gotten with me over him, in my mind. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We can't control it, man. We can't call it. It's they wild, man.
It's just that they have like a split sexuality where it's like all men are basically attracted to the same thing. Whereas like women, they go through different phases in their life when they're attracted to different things, and their sexuality is split between that whole alpha male and the resource provider. Because I mean, like we were saying, back in tribal days, there was no split. It was like the fastest, strongest, biggest guy also had the most resources. But now you got people where you got like a Bill Gates where he couldn't survive a fight with probably at least like 80% of the men on the planet. but he's more powerful than all of them. So it just fucks up their wiring in their head because they're like, well, he should look like this, but he's got this, and it doesn't fucking make sense from like a natural standpoint.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
absolutely.
It's just funny that the guys who are in charge of setting the standards, it seems like they're somewhat setting themselves up for failure. Because, like, okay, it's the beta males who run everything. You know, they've gotten control of the government, the media, and they're putting across images of women being promiscuous, women cheating on the good guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you got to think like the value of money to those type of people. Like if you're up in like the top 10% of earners, like you can afford a divorce. You can afford 2 or 3 divorces. And if you have kids, you can still afford that. And that money doesn't mean as much to you as somebody who's working 60 hours a week just to get like $40,000.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. And
Yeah,
I think that proves that marriage is only for the rich.
Yeah.
yeah. Those said earlier too, those super rich elite, their women and their men aren't behaving in the same manner that's being promoted. Like I said, you won't catch them doing half the stuff that they're promoting in 1,000 years.
Yeah, because there's actually still some risk. Because like say like, you know, you get knocked out of like Donald Trump's family and you got to go work at McDonald's. It's a way bigger difference than, you know, the guy's earning $40,000 a year and then you got to go on welfare.
True indeed.
Yeah.
Well, anybody got any other topics, man? We can open it up. If anybody got anything else in mind.
Yeah, maybe some questions from the live chat.
I want to talk about something. I noticed that a lot of people are making videos and have been complaining about getting their videos demonetized. You know, talking about race or something like that. You know, and just talking about certain subjects. But they've been really complaining about it. You know, some of my YouTuber friends really is mad. And I heard other people like, you know, Reluctant Nobbies talking about this same thing too, you know. I kind of knew this was going to happen after the gender war, you know, after this black female gender, whatever you want to call it. You know.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean,
so go ahead and you guys can respond.
Let me say I don't necessarily believe that it's race motivated because I've seen enough males of other races complaining about the same thing. So I think it's a gender. I think it's a gender thing.
Yeah, it's a gender war.
Oh, so you think this has to do with a gender war because it's only affecting most of the men. I don't see too many of the women complaining about this.
Right.
Most of the men.
But you know why it looks like a race thing? And this is my humble opinion. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
It looks like a race thing because when you really look at the gender war, the black community is the canary in the mine. We have been dealing with a matriarchy longer in the Western world than any other group. And so what you find is that the black woman has a lot of power and say because she is supported racially within the white system. They've adapted to it very well. You know, and this is why you find that they're all graduating at a higher rate. They say, you know, they're the most educated group and all these other things that they say that are, you know, that can be argued and debated. But the simple fact of the matter is we are, as a community, the canary in the mine to other groups. So when we see what's happening at a greater and more and a faster rate, because they unify real good, you know, real quickly on taking a guy down, African-American women, they'll unite to take a man down.
Oh, yeah.
As long as he's black.
Yeah.
He's got to be a black guy.
Yeah, it has to be a black guy to top it off. But they're the threat. Who's a threat to the matriarchal system within the black community? If that matriarchal system was created and put in place in a white patriarchy, like you were saying about what's his name, Bill Cosby, he's within the system of white patriarchy, trying to fit in the system. It's the same thing. This is why it's a bad thing when a black guy, like you talk about the dick police, when a black guy gets with a woman of a different race. But when we have Crystal Carrison talking about the swirling movement, they don't miss a beat and saying, oh yeah, you go girl, you got yourself a white snow king or whatever the crap they come up with. Like anybody cares. Just go bang who you want to bang. I ain't even know what police here. I don't care. But the point is that they have this power and they exercise it against who they consider to be the greatest threat to their power, which would be who? Black men. We're a threat to their power. So it is race and it isn't race. We're sort of battling our own from a people who get their power from the white patriarchal system. So it's a gender war, and there's race involved, but not to the degree that we think it is. Because generally, white women are going to use that same method and tactic against other white men if they seem like they're getting powerful with a message that opposes them and what their goals are.
The only option is to leave and become an Abuamerican out there in Europe.
I'm in Germany living in the white patriarchy, man. So
yeah, I don't doubt it. Damn.
No, but on that demonetization thing, I think it seems to affect men more too, because if you really look at the views that women get, it's like they get a lot more views and they're more reluctant to demonetize channels that get a lot of views. So it's like, even though a lot of men have a lot of good stuff to say, they don't get views like the makeup channels and whatever, whatever women are talking about. So they're less likely to demonetize a channel that already has like a lot of followers and a lot of views and stuff.
That's why Tommy keeps coming back from the dead.
Yeah. and that's why CNG, she don't get none of her videos demonetized.
Right.
So and she too at the same time. They talking about this white Abuamerican and stuff like that, white supremacy all the time. I think I looked at one of his videos and he said white supremacy about what, 50, 60 times?
Yeah.
Well, I think that touches on. Didn't you talk about this, Reg, in one of your videos?
Yeah, I talked about it. It's just ridiculous, man. It's just, come on now. He's making money. He ain't trying to help nobody out.
I think it's more so about them trying to do a psyop and keep people at odds, keep the races at odds.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll let CNG and Tariq talk that stuff they talk.
Yeah.
That's just keeping the races, keeping the tension going.
Yeah, it's definitely a benefit too. If you look at capitalism, that's how it works. It's like they just break down people. They want to break you down into an individual and then make you basically worship the corporations, where it's like all your value comes from, I'm wearing this, I'm driving this, I'm drinking this. It's got to be, I'm sure people that won't even drink like store brand stuff, or they have to have designer everything, and they feel like that somehow gives them value.
That's true. Very true. I met a black woman recently that said she can't drink certain drinks because those drinks are for the lower class black people. So yeah. Huh? What'd you say?
You was dating that one that was bougie.
Oh no, I wasn't dating her. I met her. I wasn't dating her.
Yeah, but that's how it is though. Because people used to have like value for their family or their clan or whatever. People used to have flags and stuff just for their family, and now it's like most people don't even care about their family.
Nope.
All they care about is what they're wearing, what they're doing. What's going to look good on Instagram.
Live chat.
Go ahead. What you got going on?
King Air, he asked the question: do you see white women as a liability or strategic asset? So I typed that I'd like to disabuse the idea of race in it, and that women are a liability in general in this day and age. And then he just asked, of course, are you going to choose, if you choose any, would they be amongst them? And I said, I can't speak for others, but generally I don't mess with any black woman raised in the West. Now I made a video about this in specific, King, and my logic and reasoning is this. Because the entire Western world is a white patriarchy, the entire concept and idea of what success is a white male. So it benefits black women to get a white male, but it doesn't benefit her to get a black male, because a white male is at the apex of the white patriarchy. We watch movies, whatever else. White males are the superheroes, and everybody else is the bad guy. So for white women and black women, white men are the are the one to grab. Now, white women, this rule doesn't apply so much so, because no matter what, if she gets a successful black man, she's still successful within the white patriarchy. Unlike a black woman, she's just got the status quo. Whether he's successful or not, it doesn't matter. The only time you find black women complaining about, white women getting black men is when those black men are successful. But really, they weren't looking at them before then. White women, it doesn't matter, because no matter what, she is the model of beauty and goodness within the white patriarchy, the white woman. So for you to get a white woman, it's probably I don't want to make that statement that it's better for you as a black man. I don't want to say that, but at the same time, it kind of is, because there's more incentive for a white woman to behave with traditional gender roles, even though they don't do it entirely, but there's more incentive for her to do it with the white patriarchy as opposed to a black woman. So
I have to agree. I have to agree totally. Only issue I have is, and it's not really my issue, but why is the divorce rate so high between white women and black men? While I do agree with you, well, they say it's the highest divorce rate there is in America, white women and black men.
I haven't seen any statistics on it, to be honest. I haven't even looked at it. I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's funny. I don't know if it's true, because the black guys I know that are with white women, they seem to be working it out.
But yeah, that's what I do. They tend to last pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to look at the economics on that and see what the earnings is, because like obviously feminism is helping women get promoted, and white women are getting promoted like crazy. So it's going to be harder for a black man to keep up with that.
True.
Yeah. I think I did a video a long time ago about the stats and about black men and black women, white men, black women, and white people and black people marry the least, basically. Still, the black.
I'm sorry, which group is the least? I apologize, I didn't hear you.
Black people, white people, they marry the least out of probably all the races.
You meaning a black man and a white man get married the least, or
a black woman? It doesn't matter.
Black woman.
Black people,
it doesn't matter.
Black people or white people. It doesn't matter if it's a white woman, black man or black woman. White man, I just said that. No, what I'm saying is that they marry the least. Black on black still marry the most. As far as now, these surveys was done I think 2013 or something like that. So I don't know about right now, but those surveys predict that they marry. They have the highest percentage of marriage.
Yeah, I believe that. They try and make it look like interracial marriage is like everywhere, but it's really not. It's just like that on TV.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a false. It's like a false sense of reality. They got you thinking that, oh man, it's just a problem or something like that.
And then they try to say the black woman and the white man is the most successful marriage in America. You heard that one?
Yeah,
it's the least divorce, and I don't believe it, because I personally know 2 black women that divorced white men. But hey, that's just my corner. I don't know.
And then they cheat on them a lot too. I know I was a couple black women that was married to white men, and I'm telling you right now, I could have fucked them. That's basically like that.
Most definitely.
I just don't mess with married women, but I'm just saying it was just. I mean, they out there. I
do mess with married women, and yeah.
I'm kind of disconnected from America. I've been gone so long, so I'm not really overly familiar. I sort of like looked through the window outside in, so yeah.
No, but like I said, man,
I don't know what to say about out there. Oh, go. I'm sorry.
Oh no, but like I said,
no, go ahead.
a lot of it's just screwed up right now, man. That's all I can say. I'm kind of lost of words right now. Just,
It is screwed up.
Yeah, I just think marriage is on the decline altogether, though. Really,
It's an
It'll be
inevitable.
done. Marriage, the institution of marriage will be finished in another 30 years in
I'll give
America.
it.
You say you give it less?
Yeah, it's declining rapidly.
Yeah, you're probably
It's
right.
like a roller coaster free fall, man. It logically doesn't even make sense in the first place. You know, I advise men on my channel to get religious marriages, not legal marriages. I mean, how ridiculous is the concept? Baby, I love you. I love you too, honey. Let's go put the government in the middle of all of this and get married. It doesn't make any logical sense. What's the government got to do with two people who say they love each other? This comes back to what we were talking about with altruistic ideas and where religion plays in like maintaining a particular mentality and culture within a society. Why do you need the government involved in the love between two people? If they say they love each other, what are they doing there? Why would you put the government in it? It's a setup. It's an overplay for the underlay, man. It's designed to jam a man up. And as this blue pill revolution takes place, as red pill knowledge spreads more and it comes more common to even the most blue pill of individual, it logically doesn't make sense, because no matter how emotional a man is, logic and reason appeals to him, even if he fights against it for whatever reason, to pick a favor with women or whatnot.
I agree.
Appeals to him.
it's not worth it no more, man. You know, trying to get married in this day and age.
yeah, exactly.
When my parents, generation, it was beneficial. I think the last time it was beneficial to get married was probably maybe during the mid 80s, going into the 90s.
Yeah.
After that, it just went completely down. You got your mic on. God, King.
I'm sorry. I think it was in the 70s when no fault divorce was implemented, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's when it started.
Once that started, you can forget about it.
Yep.
That nullifies every marriage vow. Period. You think about it.
Yeah, I mean, all you really need these days is a DNA test and some type of child agreement, for child custody.
Yeah, and I know y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told that marriage was implemented because the beta males couldn't get women. The alphas were snagging up all the women. So then it had a majority of the society left out there with no women, and they weren't productive.
This is what I went back to. Remember what I was saying? Monogamy laws.
Right.
Those who compete. The only time they want to compete is when they can create a system that advantages themselves.
So in other words, this current marriage system in the West is just a whole farce anyway.
Yeah. If you can't be part of the 20%, then create an environment where it's difficult to be the 20, the 80-20 rule. So.
Yeah, and plus you got to think like wars were a lot bigger too. Like that's what they used to do, is like whenever there was too many young men, they would just send them off to a war. And if they captured another place, then there was women there. And if they lost, then they were just dead.
Yeah.
But now, while I don't agree with state marriage, I think it's a waste of time, like we've been saying. And it's just ridiculous. It's stupid for men to get into it.
Absolutely.
Doesn't that bring about an end of society as we know it if there is no state marriage? If you have 80% of the men that can't get women, so then they're not motivated to perform, to be successful, to produce. You know what I'm saying? How can society flourish?
Yeah, but I think if they didn't have state marriage, and women would still look for men for resources, and then they wouldn't be able to take all the resources from the guy. I think that's a huge disincentive to a lot of guys, is the fact that they're looking at, especially the younger guys, they're looking at, getting divorced. They're like, oh, I'm going to work half of my life, and then the girl's just going to turn around and take all my money. It's not really worth it. Because I think a lot of MGTOWs would want to get married if the system was more balanced.
Yeah, I think they would too, for sure. MGTOWs would be married overnight.
Absolutely, it's in human nature. We're social beings. I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's really.
I'd be married.
You guys talking about MGTOW now. When did MGTOW start? I mean, I guess somebody can fill me in on that.
In reality, black men started MGTOW in the 60s or 70s. Whenever that, what was it? Whenever that welfare stuff started.
Yeah.
That was the real start of MGTOW, but it wasn't. Of course, it wasn't called MGTOW back then.
Okay.
Now, as far as the recent one, I never heard of it before 2013. But I don't know.
I don't know. I think it
I
started
can't
in like
remember when I.
2000.
But in reality, even Sandman did a video about that where he said it was actually black men that have been doing this forever.
Okay.
Yeah, he talked about it.
But the recent
We're the
MGTOW,
canaries in the
who
mine,
started?
man.
Who started the recent MGTOW? Excuse me.
No, I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, what race? A white person? Black person?
Well, I mean,
It seems like a woman.
the online version was started mostly by Barbarossa and Stardust, and they're both. I think Barbarossa is like from the Caribbean or something like that, and Stardust
Okay.
from New York.
Okay.
But before, I think that a lot of what's missing in MGTOW is because like the original thing was to like bring back the balance of men and women and to kind of fight against the state. And I think that got kind of lost when it came online more and more on YouTube because they wanted to get everybody in it. So they were saying, well, oh, well, you can still do this and still do that. And it kind of lost the whole fundamentals of, you know, trying to bring men and women back together. And people were just like, this shit's not going to work. Like, save yourself.
Building off of this, just slightly different conversation within the context of this one. Has anyone ever noticed something about MGTOW and the changing of times and mentality of men that it's helped you with women? Have you noticed that? I've come to notice that with the spread of MGTOW, homosexuals and whatever, it's created an artificial sense of male scarcity. And for as big as a jerk I am, I'm inundated with female offers. Has anybody else noticed this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Say that one more time for me. I'm sorry.
I
might have missed what you.
Have you noticed how MGTOW and like the spread of homosexuality and whatever else has helped you as a man in regards to women? I was like, because I've noticed that despite all my so-called misogynistic ideas, I'm inundated with female offers. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know, the amount of women who I get pursued by, excuse me. Has anyone else noticed this?
Yeah, instead of them
It's created a male scarcity.
Yeah, instead of them having 1,000 options, they only have 400.
No, yeah, it's been like, cause I've kind of been like that, like MGTOW, because whenever I'm at work, I just don't talk to women. And it's like, it seems like they're always coming up to me and stuff because I'm the one guy that's not chasing them down for their number and stuff like that.
Just, I've experienced it too. I agree.
I'm just curious about that. If anybody else has noticed that?
Well, I mean, even look at all the like kind of red pill game channels where the guys are still, you know, dating or doing pump and dump, and they seem pretty successful at that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're coming out with that mentality of like, I'm not looking for a relationship, I'm not trying to get married, and women think that they're going to be the one to change you or something like that.
The women are insane.
Right there.
They're a special group.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that men have been trying too hard to chase after women.
Most definitely, they try too hard.
Way too hard. You know, they gotta slack off, let them try to chase after you. Because I mean, if you chase after them, you just give them advantage.
It always works out better when she's making the moves.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate to say, you know, that doesn't sound like something an alpha would say, but it is what it is.
I mean, it's just basic negotiating, you know. It's like if you come to the person with the offer, then you're already down one chip because you're asking them for something.
Yep. Has you guys read the Rational Male books, both of them by Rollo Tomasi?
I have not.
I haven't.
Okay, Roloff Tomasi talks about that. The one with the least need as the one who has the most power. And, he basically promotes the idea that the man is the prize. And, that most men have flipped that script. He also talked about something that you talked about. I think it was, I can't remember who was talking about it. That basically at different phases of a woman's life, she has different priorities and what she's looking for in a mate. So, yeah. But anyway,
Yes, Square Peg was saying that.
yeah, that's he actually puts a visual chart in his book, the second book, Preventative Measures, Rational Male Preventative Measures. I really suggest you guys read those two books. Three books that completely changed my life entirely was R/K Selection Theory. It completely changed how I view humanity. And the Rational Male books, in terms of secular reading outside of religion, those three books, man, completely changed night and day how I view the world. I highly recommend them.
Have to check them out.
Yeah. So I'll leave a link to them books.
Diamond Life.
Yeah, I was gonna say what he was saying in the chat room. He says, I foresee major street harassment perpetuated on men in the next 10 years and beyond. What y'all think about that?
I disagree.
Street harassment on alpha males? I don't think so. Alpha males fight.
On men, he just says on men, period.
Oh, just on men. Okay.
There's a video. I can't remember where I saw it. I saw it about like maybe 2 weeks ago. And it was just talking about the things that women find attractive in men. And women love it when a man initiates. It is not in their nature to initiate. It's not in their nature to be like, it's not normal. You have women that are aggressive sexually and whatnot, but generally the vast majority of women expect men to initiate, and they desire it because women cannot deal with and cope with rejection to the same level that men can. They don't have this, the what does it call it? They're more insecure than we are, So they automatically, you got to remember, women can't think like in the same way men can. They're more like they externally project their entire frame of the world. And Rollo Tomasi talks about this in his book. They externalize their entire ideology of the world on men. So she automatically thinks that if she approaches a man, he's gonna bitch shield her just like she would to him. He's gonna put up an attitude just like she would. But that's not normal for men. We don't have this.
You did an excellent video on that, man. Y'all need to go watch his video on what was it? Why she shit test you?
Yep.
You explained that? That was perfect.
Oh man, that's why she shit test you? Oh, what was the because
when you were talking about like she basically thinks that you are thinking the way she's thinking.
Yes. Why she shit tests you? Oh God, man. Now you put me on the spot. You gotta forgive me.
Just go look at the video, y'all.
Yeah, it's probably best to go to the video. Because guys, I won't lie, I have a brain that like basically it fires a whole bunch and then I'll fire and forget, and that's why I video dump on my channel. It's more of a mental dump, so I don't get nosebleeds.
Well, I'm gonna check that one out. Wow.
Yeah, they think they assume that we're thinking what they're thinking. I don't want to say everything he said in the video, but that was the gist of it.
Yeah. Guys, sorry, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but Diamond Life.
No, go ahead.
You're coming into an area that I love to talk about, which is female psychology. I spend a lot of time on it. You say that's how desperate they will become. I disagree. Male thirst is too powerful, and you have to remember the difference between male and female sexuality. Women have sex at will. Men are sexual opportunists. We have sex when the opportunity presents itself. We can create opportunity through game. But a woman goes outside and she's like, I'm available, and dudes line up around the corner. A woman can have sex when she wants to. A man has sex when he gets the opportunity. Women aren't desperate. They don't have to be. So she can go outside, throw a rock, and hit any man at any point and have sex. So I disagree that they're desperate.
They do start to get a little bit desperate after the wall.
They get desperate for the alpha male.
Yeah. For certain guys, that's right.
Yeah.
They hit that wall, man.
And you know what's funny? Funny is that they don't have a clue of the wall. That's amazing to me. that women have no freaking idea of the wall until it happens. That's amazing.
I think they know it, but they're in denial about it.
Hmm.
And what helps is that, like, there's a buddy of mine on Facebook. There's this lady. She's an old lady. I mean, she is old as dirt. I mean, wrinkled old, dude. It ain't even normal. Age has not treated her well. And she is online posting like half naked pictures like she's an 18-year-old. And dudes are on there like, oh, baby, you look great. Why would she not need to be in denial about how she looks? When you've got guys, she looks wrinkled as like the freaking spots around the elephant's eyeballs,
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, oh, baby, you're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, that's high level simping.
Male thirst, dude. It's freaking horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see women having like harems of like 10 simps before they start going after the alpha males like that.
Yeah.
But it's like women don't approach men, but they will kind of put themselves in the space of a man that they're attracted to, though.
Oh yeah, positioning
Yeah, where they'll just kind of be around you
on
hoping that
purpose.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, Stylistic S says, anybody heard the rhetoric about women repeating that they're the most educated group in America? Yeah, we've all heard
Black
that,
women.
We heard it all the time.
I mean,
especially black women.
it's true, but that doesn't really mean much.
It just means the school system was set up for them to succeed. The school system is gynocentric anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, even among men, it's like only like 50% of like business owners have only graduated high school.
Right.
So it doesn't even really mean much.
I did a response on that. I talked about that. For all the education, what has been the benefit to the African American community?
None at all.
The condition of the African American community, all that educational success hasn't converted into generational wealth or the building of institutions and structures to benefit the next generation. It hasn't built a strong community, so it hasn't really. What's the benefit?
Hey guys, I'm gonna tell you a story. I was in college and I had the pleasure of getting downgraded by a professor. And I was in a class with 3 other black females. And I like told them about that. And then they didn't even believe me. He wasn't downgrading them, but he downgraded me. And I told another brother that was in another class, he was about to take the same class I was going to take. Now, he was a computer major. He was computer science. So he took all his hard classes. So all he had to do was take these easy classes. He left the easy classes, for last. And, that's what you do. He took his class. Dude came back to me a week later, and said, hey, man, that guy's down there. He was right. And I warned him about that guy.
It's set up for the women to win, man.
It was set up for women. I knew then. That was back in 1990.
Yep.
Yeah. I knew then they want these women to graduate from college. They want these women to get these jobs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the women don't even really want that. They're just doing it because somebody told them that's what's going on right now. That's the status quo right now.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say this? I think that goes back to the external projection. A lot of women try to become what they're attracted to. So they become highly educated and successful in business or whatever else, is that the other. But that's what they're looking for. And we don't really care as men. We don't care about that. Generally we don't. Some men do, but it's like, really, I'm like, yo, did you keep your figure? I don't care if you got a degree or not. That doesn't matter to me. I don't want your money. I'm not trying to live off your money. So to me,
go ahead.
I find that women are becoming like those women that go to the gym and they lift heavy and whatever else, and they get these big muscles. They're becoming what they're attracted to because they have a hard time with this type of like, what do you call it? No, there's a certain word for it. It's like thinking outside the box. They can't do that because their nature is solipsistic. And, you know, this is where we have a problem with the gynocentric society, where women, like I said, they have a hard time with words and how the words make them feel as opposed to what the words are actually saying. And when we say these things about women, it's not in a hurtful or mean or derogatory manner. It's just the reality of their nature. But you can't say this without becoming one of the dark lords of the apocalypse bad guys, you know? So I think it has more to do with that. You know, this is what they're looking for. Let me become it. But the problem is they create their own system of misery. So now she's up here, and because of hypergamy, she won't look down here.
That's right. I did a video series on it. Yep.
Yeah. Look, the fry cook, he's not in a better position than the cashier at McDonald's. But the cashier at McDonald's, she can marry a millionaire, but she will not date the fry cook. But what's the difference between the two? She wants better than the fry cook, even though she's not one step away from him.
Yeah, they price themselves out.
Skills or whatever else. It's the nature of hypergamy. So
yeah, with education, they price themselves out. Mm-hmm. And then they wonder why they're single and 40. You know? Yeah. Master's degree, doctorate degree, career, upward mobility, whatever it is, and then wonder why they can't get a man. Well, they could get one, they just don't want the men in their vicinity.
Yeah.
And as they move up, they're creating less and less men in their vicinity.
They were talking about the effects of like all these aid programs in the third world to help women with microloans and whatnot. And it's having the same knockoff effect there too. They're talking about it like specific. The IMF, I think it was, gave microloans to women only. And what happened was women opened businesses and they became successful and they started leaving their men because like, oh, my man isn't making as much money as me. Oh, well, your man didn't get a microloan to start a business like you did. You know? So now they're talking about the knockoff effect that this type of, mentality is having in the third world also.
But once again,
in the chat was talking about that too.
But once again, it goes back to the men, I think, because men are the ones facilitating this whole thing. Everything you just said. It's men. And men want female employees. They can pay them less. All that.
That's true. That's true. I like to video about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just want women around too.
That too.
Well, yeah, it expands the circle of like potential women mates. Yeah. It's a reproductive strategy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just failing because people aren't realizing that it's messing up the whole society. So while, yeah, maybe you might get a leg up right now, your kids are going to be screwed over, or the whole entire society is going to collapse.
Enjoy the decline.
Exactly. But that's what it is, though, because it's like what you were saying before about how they put the women in the workforce and they knocked out half of the dudes from women even looking at them.
Yep.
And now they're writing articles about how they got to date down. And it's like, so you mean he's full-time employed and, you know, he takes care of the kids too, but somehow it's dating down. It's like.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Dude, it seems unsavable. This is why I told you I'm a doom and gloom type of guy. I'm an apocalypse type of guy.
I think I am too.
Yeah.
I want to look at this comment. Man of Tomorrow says, if women choose men, they will always choose someone who's mentally and emotionally weaker. Like the women who date down on purpose for control, I guess.
That's true. That's true.
So it's kind of hard to really understand these women because they're doing hypergamy, but then at the same time you have another group of them who are purposely choosing men beneath them, and they'll run from a man who's on their level or higher because they don't want to submit.
But that's just I think all individuals want a certain level of control, though. And it's like if you look at a female, like her dominant role is when she's a mother. So it's like that's why you have like the perpetual like I guess like the men aren't as mature as they should be, because that's the only time a woman can control a man is when she's in that mother type of role.
Yeah, but those women choose the men that are beneath them, but then later on,
because they want control. It's the same thing with like the rape fantasy. It's like every woman wants to be raped, but no woman wants to be raped.
right?
It's like they want to be raped in a controlled setting.
But then they complain. But then they complain about those same guys.
They want that mother
rape fetish
100% time, 100% of the time now.
Oh, what you saying, Rich?
Oh,
the rape
they
fetish.
want that. You know, they want that motherly control 100% of the time now.
Yeah. Except during sex, except during the narrow band when they're having sex and they need to get turned on, and then they want the guy to dominate them, and then they want him to go back to being a kid.
That is exactly right.
Exactly.
It's like, because they're actually, like you said, they're afraid of a real dominant man.
But I think a lot of times they'll choose the guy who they can dominate because they want to be able to keep that narrative going about herself being the strong woman, the independent woman. Like she can't have that narrative. Like how could a woman have that narrative if she were to get with Bill Gates?
Yeah, exactly.
You see? So they're conflicted, man.
They are. I mean, like you said, the elites, they've been studying human nature for thousands of years. You know, so they know exactly what they're doing when they're tweaking this and tweaking that. It's not like they just came out of nowhere. They're like, let's just try this and let's just try that. They know. You know, it's going back before Freud, going back before like all the Greek philosophers and like African philosophers. Like they know what's gonna happen when if you take away the man, then they know that the women's are gonna go crazy and the kids are gonna grow up fucked up. You know, it's like they don't just do stuff by accident. It seems like it. But.
Let me ask y'all: do y'all get into metaphysics at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
I do a little.
So yeah. Diamond Life is saying he tends to stay away from metaphysical stuff, but he says every 6,000 years or so, there's a cyclical change in the dominance of masculine and feminine energy on the planet. He says it's 6,000 years masculine, then 6,000 feminine. He thinks, I guess he's thinking we're going into the feminine now.
I disagree.
I heard that from Bobby Hemmett and Phil Valentine. They were talking about something like that. Where
Period cycle.
Yeah.
TFM says it's every 250 plus years.
Yeah.
And I agree. When we look at, like I said, I mentioned it before, the Greek, the Byzantines, the Ottomans, the Romans. When we look at all these great societies of the past, the Egyptians, their cycles are around every 250 years. There's a rise and a collapse of every society. So I do agree that it's cyclic, but not over 6,000 years. I think it's much shorter. And I think we're on the decline right now. We're about the 275 year point right now. So that's probably what we're looking at. You know, the decline has been dragged out a little bit longer time.
So if you're right, we're going into the dark ages then.
Well, I mean, the elite are trying to stop it because that's their whole plan is to try and to get on top and then stop that cycle from happening. But obviously they have to keep printing money and doing all this other stuff in order to do that.
Sure, the elite aren't trying to push it forward.
Well, it's like in order, you know, you got to look at it like a pyramid. It's like in order for them to have a lot of power, they have to take away a lot of power from other people. And that's not maintainable over long periods of time. So that's why they're using all this social engineering and other aspects in order to try to like stop the cycle from happening when they're on the top. You know what I'm saying?
But they can't stop the cycle because it's part of nature.
Yeah, exactly. They can't stop it.
Order things, you know, you can't do it. It's just trying.
But they could slow it down with stuff like welfare. Because I mean, think about it. It's like if they weren't giving out welfare and giving women promotions, this stuff would have fallen apart a long time ago.
Yep. That's why I was saying maybe capitalism is gynocentric. Maybe capitalism can't go on without it being like it is now.
I mean, in a sense, yeah, because I mean, it's definitely one of the driving forces right now is just men getting with women.
Look at dating. Look at how much money the business owners make off dating and how those relationships never go anywhere. But that money's spent. The whole jewel and ring industry for all the rings, the engagement rings, marriage ring, wedding rings.
The fashion industry. I mean, back then it's like You wouldn't let your wife, oh yeah, I'm going to the fucking beauty shop to look as good as possible when you're not home. You'd be like, fuck that. How much does this cost? You like, just sit your ass right there and take care of these kids. But now it's not like that anymore.
Nope. Someone was talking about this in I can't remember who it was. He was saying it sounds like, King. It was King something, and he was saying like
King Akir.
sounds like oppression is the only way. And we listen to Turd Friendly Monkey, he talks about that. He talks about the birth rates in the West as opposed to the third world, where women are utterly oppressed. And he said in the third world, rate births, replacement birth rates, where women have the least amount of freedom in the world. But when you give them like freedom, like in the West, birth rates are in utter decline and free fall. In specific, let's look at Germany, Italy, and other countries. They have the lowest birth rates in the Western world, and this is part of why they're bringing it. I don't want to go too far off topic, but let me just say this is why they're bringing in immigrants here. It's not an altruistic thing done for the humanity of people suffering from war. It's just they need people. I can go outside and get a job after quitting my job tomorrow, and I'll be working the next day because Germany is very strong in industry and manufacturing, and I specialize in industrial logistics. And so I can get a job in logistics tomorrow. I can quit today and literally, not even exaggerating, walk into a company and start working tomorrow. They don't have enough people. So oppression of women seems to keep birth rates up. And so when we start talking about these topics, this is what I was saying earlier, where it's not nice sounding stuff, limited freedom, when we were talking about groups and communities and tribes. But the reality is, I think the more freedom we give people, the more things get messed up, and we start having 10-year-old boys talking about, I want to get my winky cut off and become a girl, and just all sorts of madness like this.
Yeah, but I mean, I think people could have the freedom too, like TFM says a lot. It's like, but without the authority or the responsibility, where it's like, if a woman had to, pay for the kid or pay for the abortion, she would think twice before sleeping with the guy. And the same thing with, a lot of other stuff. They've taken away the responsibility, like where, if you want to be transgender and you want to cut off your dick or whatever, you can't cry to the government to pay for your whatever medical bills and all that other stuff. It's like they've just taken away the responsibility. And then the people that want to be responsible and want to work hard, they just end up being the suckers of society.
Right. Like I said, we still end up cleaning up behind their mess.
I was talking about this today, and I was talking about the eaters and the builders, and those who build and those who just eat.
Yep. Speaking of Germany, man, you out there. I was out there for a week. Y'all seem like y'all have some extreme segregation going on between the genders. Men and women did not seem to hang around each other. I saw that in Frankfurt. I was only in Frankfurt. Even in the nightlife.
I'm trying to think about the situation here and how to explain it.
The women I was meeting women that were from other countries. They were foreigners just like me. It was hard to meet German women.
No, it's been like, wow. No, it shouldn't really be hard for you to meet German women. I tend to be the flavor of the week when it comes to German women. I actually got to beat them off with a stick,
Really?
Yeah, because, generally what's happened is, like everywhere in the West, white guys are nice until they stop being nice in the Western hemisphere. There's going to come a tipping point, and it's just going to get ugly. We're seeing it already. We're seeing it with the attacks in London. Can you guys mind if I expand on it a little bit? Just go out, talk about Europe in general.
Go ahead.
Okay, how do we say this? As we know from the historical context, especially as African American, white people, and this is not being racist. My grandfather is as white as they come. He's a white Scot, but the reality is white people can be and have proven to be systematically savage when it comes to the exercise of power. Those people still exist. We see this in Sweden. When those guys flip out in Sweden, they flip out entirely and they just axe murder a guy right in his living room. The same thing's happening in the West. Now, what happened in Germany is men gave deference to their women to the point that they became too soft for the women. They complain about the raping Afghani immigrants and Syrians and whatever, but really they like those guys because they're more masculine. And this was, I was talking about the rape fetish, and the rape fetish is a woman has a rape fetish, but only about a man that she desires, to where he finds her so desirable that he can't control himself, so he takes her. This isn't for every man. She doesn't want this from every man. She just wants from the man that she finds desirable. And then he finds her so desirable that he can't resist himself. What we find happening in Europe is European men have become super soft. There are guys that look like, in my career field, that they should be alpha. But when you talk to them, you're like, dude, what the frick? Oh no, I think you should like this with a girl. I'm like, man, you better shut up and get out of my face. What are you talking about? And you can't make this connect. Women automatically make this connect. They can smell that weakness on a guy from a mile away. So women tend to gravitate away from these men, and the men tend to gravitate away from them. And this is why you find, like, when you go to a lot of major cities, you find German men are married to like Filipinos, Thais, and whatever else. I saw one today. It's just, they go out and they'll marry some other culture of women that are naturally softer. And then you find that as a black male, because we have, according to, society's portrayal of us, a natural alpha, personality and build, that they're highly attracted to us. So when you're in Europe, advantage, especially in Germany, to be a black male. It doesn't matter if you're from Africa or America or whatever else. Women are like, this guy is gonna tear my backside off, and that's what they're looking for, a guy that will control and dominate. Because there aren't men in their own groups from their in-group that are like that. And if they are, they're the extreme minority. They presume this alphaness for us as foreign men.
Yep, they do. And that's everywhere.
So yeah, that might be part of the disconnect you're seeing, where they don't mix. That's probably what you're seeing.
I mean, I was seeing everywhere I went, nightlife, daytime, it didn't matter where I was at. They weren't together.
Yeah.
Friendly to me, though. But y'all got a lot of foreign women that are, from other European countries. Those are the ones to get with.
Well, there's a lot of foreign now, because Germans just don't have kids and they need someone to fill the workforce. So now you find, like, just all sorts of people here. You find Greeks, you find Italians, you find Spanish, a whole lot of Spanish, you find driving across the border. Yeah, so yeah, it's more of a necessity than it is out of humanitarianism that they're bringing in, like, refugees. So you'll find a lot of foreigners here now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely cool there. Clean.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the racial tension. Never been that respected by Caucasians.
Since very few since I've lived in Germany. I lived in Germany a total of 30 years, not back to back, but a total of 30 years. And I've had a few incidences, but not many. When I talk to people from America, it's like, dude, daily, like weekly, really? I'm like, damn, I might experience something every 5 to 7 years.
The only racism I got was from another black guy. He was an African.
Yes.
That's the only racism I got.
Yeah. You tend to find that, you get treated bad by other people of color as opposed to actual white people out here. I don't have the feeling or the fear of being stopped by the police out here that, like, am I going to go home from this experience? It's not even a thought in my mind.
Not even close.
Yeah, but I think racism exists a lot more where it shouldn't really, because it's like where white people and black people interact more, there's more racism. From my experiences of traveling around to different places, where if you go to a place that's all white, then they're just kind of like, oh wow, let me find out about you. Whereas opposed to, like, you live in a city.
You're absolutely right. It's like you're a novelty there. You're right. If there was more blacks in Germany doing damage in the business world, then we'd be seen as a threat, and then there'd be problems.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think what happens here in Germany is, like, people don't get out of line in terms of the rules. You find this doesn't stand true with the Syrians, but like with Africans and whatnot, and other black people, because so much is dependent upon your reputation out here that people don't get out of line. But Syrians, they're kind of like, they're on their own thing out here, man. Those guys they're on a different planet. But generally, like everybody else, if you want to function properly in the world of Germany, we go back to, like, rules and altruistic, reciprocity, then yeah, people tend to, like, take on the mannerisms of the people of the country, the dominant culture.
Would you say Germany is the best place to be in Europe? for a black man
No.
from America? No.
No.
You have a better opinion?
The UK, just because of language.
Really? The UK?
I'd say UK then Finland probably, just because of language. You have to know German here, man. You have to know German here. If you don't know German, you're gonna struggle. Even in a major city where English is like, franca lingua or lingua franca, however way it goes. Even there, it's going to be difficult. If you don't have like a decent workable level of German, I mean, it's my second language, and even I struggle. It's going to be difficult. The UK,
Yeah, German is hard.
But what about on a safety level? Because like in the UK, you're still dealing with racist police officers. You're still dealing with the same type of black women you got in the States.
yes, that is true.
So then,
But there's a
go ahead.
But in the UK, it's so multicultural that you don't really have to worry about like dealing with black women. There's a lot of different women out there that are attracted to men of color. I come to find that like there's a demographic of Polish women. They're in love with black dudes. There's a demographic of like Spanish women, of North African descent. They love black dudes. I mean, so you got a lot going on. Blues the Collar, he can tell you about it. I don't know if he's still in the room or not, but I mean, I actually stayed with him. We were roommates in London, and he stays in a pretty diverse area. I'm pretty sure he could agree with me on that.
Cool. That's the first time I've heard UK. Most people say it's too much like here.
You have some aspects and problems, but because there's so many different cultures there, you don't have to particularly take from a specific one your own demographic. I don't believe in dick policing people. You want to get with a white girl, a Spanish, whatever else, man, do your thing. I'm not, because I come from a highly diverse family, so it's hard for me to have that. My mother's from South America with her dad, being white. So, it's hard for me. My brother has a Mandarin Chinese kid, half mixed. So for me, it's kind of difficult to like take a pure,
Gotcha.
Hotep pro, stance. It's too late for me.
Ralph,
Diamond as a language. Sorry.
Let's see, Ralph Floyd, you had a question. You say somebody answer your question, but I don't see which question you're talking about. Can you retype it, Ralph Floyd, if you don't mind? And Diamond Life says, why Finland?
Yeah, I'm answering him now. I told him the language, English.
Yeah.
It is franca lingua. It's the middle language for everybody.
I found myself getting along pretty good in African countries that didn't speak a whole lot of English, just because of the culture and how safe it is there. But I know Europe's different.
Where?
In Tanzania, in different places,
Okay.
Ethiopia, different parts of the countryside of Ethiopia. But that's Africa. That's not Europe. So I hear what you're saying. It's generally safer in non-developed countries, believe it or not.
No, yeah, I can understand that.
Yep. Well, anybody else got anything else?
Ralph asked a question. He said scroll up, but I can't find it.
Yeah, I was trying to find this question. Hey, Reg the bad guy.
Yeah.
You had that video yesterday or the other day about black women's standards. Remember that one? About how that video you put up about black women's standards and how it's unattainable, how they want the perfect guy.
Oh yeah, the perfect guy. I did that video because I saw a Reluctant Nobby video, and I guess he took the clip from the old Steve Harvey show where this woman got on the show and she presented him a list of the guy that she wants. And I'm telling you, man, this list was long. I think like 2 pages.
I think. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then the one thing that got me on the list, it was number 9 on the list, was the guy had to be a billionaire, and the guy had to be 6 feet tall to 6'4".
Yeah. I don't believe that they're serious about those lists. I think when they make those unattainable lists, they're basically trying to push the attention off of themselves because they know they're not good enough to get a man anyway.
Think about that list. The woman who created the list, she was average.
She was what?
She was average looking.
See, that's what I'm saying.
You know, I mean,
yeah, I think they.
She had full makeup on. She still was average.
Yeah, I don't think they're for real, and I don't think it's only black women either. I think women of all races have them that type of crazy expectation. But I don't think they're for real though. Because you know what? If that, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that the height requirement, I know affect a lot of women like to be with guys that's tall.
Oh, sure they do.
Now, that's one thing on the list that I had to actually do. That's why I tell people that, tell guys that if you go to date any type of woman, make sure that she's shorter than them.
Yeah.
So she can look up to you. It's just like a sign of respect or something like that.
She's got to be 6 inches shorter.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Because it's going to be harder for her to replace you if she's that much shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Tall women can replace you easier.
Oh, yeah. I would date a woman that was tall. That was like my same height. No, I know. I think she is. Probably better. She said that I'm too short. Because she used to dating guys at 6'2", 6'3". But I was with her for 3 years. Dating her for 3 years.
But you know the problem with those women? You was with her. The problem with those women, I don't believe them because if that perfect guy that they say is perfect shows up, they'll run. A lot of those women they just want to be single. They don't really want to say that they want to be single, but that's really what it is. They're comfortable being alone. They've gotten used to it. They don't want to submit to anybody. If that 6 foot, if that 6 foot whatever guy comes with the 6-pack with the 6 figures, she's gonna have to submit to him, right? And she'd rather be single before she submits. At least black women, man.
Okay, I got Ralph's question here. So Ralph asked, what about women that are happy with their husbands and living a good life in peace? And then Solar asked a question. Ralph, I mean, I like studying female psychology in specific. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the topic. So guys, forgive me when I take off on a rant. I talked about this on another video. When you are the alpha of a particular woman, she's going to be satisfied because she doesn't think she can do better. This is part of the entire be at the top of your game of the PUA scene. When pickup artists talk about improve yourself, go to the gym, you do a fighting art because that builds your confidence, it builds your value. It's DHV, demonstration of higher value. There comes a point when a woman has to realize, because women do realize the wall. She's like, I'm not going to do better than this guy. And if she hasn't alpha widowed herself, to where she's just been banging bad boys her entire young years, she is going to be like, you know what, this is the best I can do. Let me stop right here. This guy, she's going to look at you and you're going to be that cool guy. Patrice O'Neal does it in the funniest way when he talks about it, when he talks about this type of stuff, you
got to explain alpha widow. Some people
alpha widow, where she's been riding carousel, and she's been just banging the alpha bad boys. And so basically it's come to the point where it's like, how is she going to find a man that can compare to her past lovers? Every man that she wants to build a relationship now is based off of some idea of some guy of the past. And there's no man that can reach that point.
Even if it was a one-night stand.
Yeah. What's his name? Metaphysics of MGTOW. He did a beautiful video on this, and he talked about increased deference and how a woman can basically just completely destroy her ability to have a relationship by having sexual partners at multiple points. And I don't want to, I always, when I take off for a long time, and I apologize, guys. But basically, you're saying like this: for a woman to get increased deference from a man, she has to increase her sexual deference to get the, increased quality deference. So what happens is she gets so used to getting so much deference from so many guys that no one man can ever in his life, give all that deference to one woman. So women who haven't been broken by society, basically, Ralph, where she hasn't screwed around and rode the carousel, she's like, oh, you know what? This guy is great. He's at the top of his game. I see that he has future. I see that he has ability. He's at his potential and he has more. Yeah, she's going to be happy. She's going to stay with that guy because she's going to think, you know what? I can deal with this. He fulfills her hypergamic needs.
And unfortunately, it's usually a big discrepancy in her value and his.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He's an 8 and she's a 5 in that case.
Yeah, there's another problem there. Yeah, that's another problem on its own. And then someone else maybe could take this one. Solar Scholar asked, how do you guys feel about polygamy?
I think polygamy is natural, but we don't live in a natural society anymore. That's how I feel about it. Now, if you can get into a natural environment, I think it's wonderful. I do think women are more happy in polygamy. I've talked to women about doing polygamy with me before, and the most common answer I get when it's a negative is usually that they don't trust the other women. It usually has nothing to do with the fact that I'm having multiple women and she's only having me. They don't have a problem with that. They have a problem with trusting the other women. Like if there were going to be children involved, they don't trust the other women around their child.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. I think we only work with those women who get along with each other. I think that's probably why Brother for Life has his thing to go successful as he did. I know he's breaking down now because I think a lot of money being involved in getting those many years. But before it was real successful. So the women, I think, got along with each other.
Yeah.
Solar, I can't talk about it like in terms of what's good for an individual. I can just give you advice. Don't try and change the rules with any woman later in the game. Set your standards out early on. And like if you can't like start a monogamous relationship and then you want to change it to polygamous, you got to let her know upfront that you are a polygamous type of guy. Now, if you are a man of value, you're going to be in the 20% and she's going to be in the 80%, where 80% of the women are chasing 20% of the men. So she's not going to have a problem being in a large harem of yours. So that's going to establish how she views you off the rip.
That's huge.
Yeah. So
that's huge.
Be straight, because if that's the lifestyle you want to live, why burn up your time with a woman who's not going to be down with it anyway?
I know 2 men that tried to change later, and both of their wives left them.
You can't do it. You can't change the rules later in the game.
Nope.
Generally, women are good about it. If you set the rules up from the start and you say, look, this is how it's going to be, they'll tend to stick to it. They'll give you a hard time. They're going to shit test you on it, but they'll stick it out with you. But if you try and change the rules in the middle of the game, nah, you're going to have problems.
I also think with materialism, the way it is right now in the West, it's going to be pretty difficult to do if you're not rich.
Yeah. No, not necessarily. This is where
in the West,
I can't remember who it was. We're disagreeing where you don't need money. I don't think you need a whole lot of money. It helps, absolutely, but I don't think it's an absolute necessity.
I don't see how you can do that.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Rich.
When they're young, I think you have to get the women when they're young. If you're going to do this, because you get somebody like 25, 26, or something like that, you're going to have problems with them.
Oh yeah, age is the biggest factor when dealing with women. When it comes to being alpha, being that man in charge, age is the biggest factor to me. I'm talking about she probably needs to be under drinking age. Like just left high school. Seriously.
And you got
Still malleable.
I don't see how else. If you're not filthy rich, how else is she gonna respect a man if she's, within, let's just say she's within 7 years of your age? I can't see it.
Mm.
And historically, most men, isn't it true? Historically, most men married, the teenage girls, and these guys was 30-year-old men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there has to be a reason for that. They knew what they were doing back then. I believe.
Yeah.
Now I want to pose a question to you guys. Now, how do the high school sweethearts make it 30, 40 years and not get divorced?
Like LeBron James.
Yeah, they the same age and they make it.
Well, do you think that they make it when they're not wealthy?
Well, excuse me, I didn't hear that.
Do you think that the ones that don't end up very successful, like financially successful, do you think they make it? Because I was gonna say it's probably a financial thing.
This goes back to what I just said though about what's his name, Ralph. When a man is meeting a woman's hypergamic needs and her dualistic reproductive strategy, easy to maintain a relationship. Let's look at what's his name. Is it Stephen Curry? Who's that basketball player? I don't even know his name. He's really good, light skinned dude. Been married.
Steph Curry. Yeah.
Yeah, Steph Curry. Yeah. Look at him. He fits the alpha look in terms of his physicality, and he financially fits her needs hypergamically. So he provides the alpha perspective in terms of like good genetics and his earning capacity. Now, obviously, since she's been with him since high school, she's seen his potential. And so she stuck it out with him based upon that. You see what I mean? It's not to say that a woman, and
Same with LeBron James. Same thing.
Yeah. I don't know. It sounds mean, but they say, the woman doesn't love the man. She loves the relationship,
Right.
And like you were just saying, if he wasn't rich, how long would that relationship last? Now only truth can tell. He has to go broke, and then we can see what's what.
Yeah, exactly.
The only way I could see it working out if they're not, financially successful is if they're like real country town backwoods people. Because those relationships tend to last longer anyway, and that's because of the social. That's because of the social situation around them. The people around them don't want to see them break up. So it's like a peer pressure.
Yeah.
The reason why
But go ahead.
the reason why I wanted to question that is because people back 20, 30 years ago, a lot of them marrying their high school sweethearts, and they end up having successful marriages. I mean, they died married. I mean, so I'm thinking that it's more like a generational thing.
Well, you saying how long ago?
Versus like 20, maybe 30, even 40 years we go back.
Well, back then marriages lasted.
Yeah, that's a social thing, because it's definitely like,
that's what I was talking about.
yeah. But it's like it's not like that anymore, though. I mean, like Abu was saying, if you can keep up with her changes, her life changes, then you're good. But if she gets a baby rabies and you're not ready for that shit, it's done.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, with women in the workforce, I don't see how marriage can work out any longer with women in the workforce the way that they are. And with them being given preferential treatment in schools and upward mobility in careers, I don't see it.
Yeah.
So once again, marriage is for the rich.
Yeah.
He can afford the divorce. If his wife has to take $500 million like Janet, he'll be all right.
Gotcha.
You about to talk about one of the comments?
Oh yeah, Diamond Life. I was just going to tell him. He said, "Country town backwoods." This goes back to what I said earlier in the chat that basically social media has given women access to more men in her lifetime, in a month than her mother or her grandmother would have in their lifetime. So yeah, being back town country back, absolutely, it reduced the fickleness of a relationship. She couldn't just like open up her browser or pick up her phone and swipe left or right and be like, oh look, winky, 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 not winky. You know what I mean? Yeah, it makes a huge difference, man. Back town country creates artificial male scarcity.
It does. And like you go in those country towns, you'll find a lot of attractive women with the men who aren't necessarily the alpha, so to speak.
Roosh talks about that. The busted dude test.
Tell me about that.
Test is when you go to a country, look at the women and look at the men they're with. Like he said, I knew I was he said, that's why he spent so much time in Poland. He's like, because when I showed up, he was like, you had down dirt, just fat slob dudes with like absolute tens. He's like, oh, I'm going to kill it here. And he did. Then the same thing in Ukraine. He's like, busted dudes everywhere, busted dudes with hot women, the busted dudes test, when you go to a country. And he's like, then he said, when I went to London, it was the opposite. You see these well-built dudes looking really good with like fat, short, ugly chicks.
And that's what I'm starting to see more of in the States.
Yeah. And he's like, so he said, do the busted dude test whenever you get off the airplane.
Yep. Well, Jim, we've been almost 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it's almost 1 a.m. here. I got to call it, man.
Yeah. Go ahead and get ready to shut it down. I appreciate you guys, Abuamerican, Reg the Bag Guy, and Square Peg, and Kitty Gakade Jones, too. Appreciate y'all for coming on.
Word, man.
We will definitely have to do it again soon. Appreciate everybody in the chat room for coming out.
Yeah. Can you guys plug your channels? Because I'm not subscribed to everybody here. So, I need to catch you guys plug so I can subscribe to you.
I'm actually going to make sure I link everybody's channel in the description box.
Awesome.
I'm going to do that.
All right.
So, all right, I'll be in touch with you guys soon. Y'all take care.
Peace.
All right.
Peace out.
GK out.